Welcome to the Lineman Lounge, hosted by Mike and Evo, calling their shots and being outlandish.
Breaking news from the Lineman Lounge. My fantasy football team just took a huge fucking hit. And that also makes it even more likely that the Raiders are going to beat the Ravens on Monday night. Le'Veon Bell is about to be your starter. Latavius Murray is going to go there as well. Jesus, fuck my ass.
Get ready for the thickest podcast in the game. Coming to you from Hangar 6, where sleeves are optional. Strap in. The show starts right now.
Como están, bitches? This is the Lineman Lounge. I am Mike. The man to my right is Eva. We are here early on a Saturday morning, getting the fucking day kicked off because we have football again, and there are some implications this week. Some teams will make it into the playoffs. Some teams will not make it into the playoffs. Some teams don't deserve to be in the playoffs, but we are going to watch those guys because they have a chance to knock one of those contending teams out. It is a busy week for gambling. It is a dangerous week for gambling, but we are going to get into all of that. Also, a little update on the NBA, Major League Baseball, a look at the college football national championship, and just your general irreverent bullshit from your boys this morning. I am not drinking today. I got some work to do, but I am going to have me a nice fucking cup of coffee.
Yeah, I'm doing the same, except for I did put liquor in mine. I mean, it's only a little bit of a
little hair of the dog?
Amaretto. No.
Okay.
Hair of the dog.
Yeah, so I worked the Cleveland State game last night and then got home. I did some work behind me. I did not build the show. Shout out Amber. Producer Amber built the shows while I was calling the game, and then I was able to come back, decorate, and get some life and shit up. But
wow, gender roles reversed completely. This is a super forward, progressive thinking podcast.
It 100%
came home. Amber had her tool belt on and her hard hat, probably nothing else to greet you. And then you came home and you're like, honey, let me decorate this, and then I'll bed you down.
There we go. That's exactly the way it worked, too. Yeah. Except for none of that happened.
Yeah, I knew.
No, it was awesome because I mean, now that the games are starting back up, I'm going to run out of fucking time again. I have several jobs and several things I have to do. So she's a fucking rock star. That's why I married her. That, and, you know, she's good in the sack. But guys, we have got a very, very busy show for you. So actually, you know what? I'm not going to hop into it yet. Evo, how's your weekend? You start your weekend officially now, or what schedule are you guys on right now? Are you guys going back to students?
Yeah, everything's back to normal. You even got rid of COVID masks again out here in Arizona. So
fuck yeah, you guys! I forgot that we went back to masks for a while. As
of this morning, like 1 minute after midnight, that happened. But yeah, I'm back to a normal work schedule. I'm working in the evenings, so got home a little later last night. Didn't sleep well at all, so I was like, when I was trying to get up this morning, it was not ideal, even though realistically it's 8 here in the morning right now, right. So I should be perfectly fine. But you know, it's my own fault for living a fast and wild life, I guess. Yeah. But
that is your fault.
Everything is good. Getting ready to start the weekend, which we do have football today.
We do.
You know, everybody was pretty upset about no football on Thursday night.
Those fucking games have stunk all year, so
yeah, that's true. But obviously, I feel like everyone, you know, when you have a shortened week and then it just throws everything off, I feel like that happened for a lot of people in the NFL this week after Monday night's events, which obviously we will get into. It made football and the spacing between things just feel weird, and we are in major flux right now with so much going on in the world of professional sports, particularly in the NFL. Playoffs starting next week. And the playoff implications from last week and now this week and things going forward. We have basically first ever scenarios happening in the NFL for the playoffs this year that were unexpected when we last did this show. So it's pretty intense. A lot of new stuff going on. Trying to keep things as, I guess, I had a diatribe that I was going to go on this morning about things with the NFL, and I'm going to refrain from it for the most part. And it's going to kind of go hard at the NFL, but as we do from time to time. But I do want to thank a whole bunch of people. I actually got hit up in the last week from friends and people who are around here local who have been a part of the show. And it was kind of weird that they all, from different groups and walks of life and friendships and stuff like that kind of hit me up and were like, hey, thank you for having the Facebook page and the little podcast you guys do and everything. It's nice to have a little bit of breath of fresh air from different Facebook groups that are just troll groups concerning sports, or the mainstream sports networks and stuff like that, where you're just hearing the same stuff regurgitated. You guys are at least fun. Some that maybe they're not watching these sexy faces the whole time because they don't have enough wet floor signs or towels in their house to stop from hurting themselves. All the moisture.
Yeah, listen, you can only take us for so long.
But you can leave us on in the background.
Absolutely. We're gonna wear you out.
There's chafing involved.
Yeah.
But you can leave us on in the background. We're gonna bullshit with you. It's like the couple of douchers from work that are just always talking about sports and fucking around and having a good time, and it's just something that you can kind of laugh and giggle about while you go about your daily life on a Saturday or a Sunday or a Friday night, whenever we happen to do the show, because we're flexible, baby. We're like gymnasts. So thank you for everyone that had the kind words. We are in 2023. It's a new year for us, so another year of the lounge is going on, only growing, getting bigger, onwards and upwards.
Hell yeah, I like it. And I don't know who it was, but shout out whoever said the kind words. We obviously really appreciate that. We're ready to roll in 2023. First show of the year. I feel like we both have a little bit more of a lounge setting finally, now that I'm in my house and I can get things set up. So I'm ready to fucking roll.
I think a stripper pole would go good in that corner there between the Browns flag and the shelves and stuff. Ooh. That would really get the lounge setting going.
That would be good. I mean, because it kind of looks almost a little bit like orange disco lights up there. So,
yeah, and we're gonna constantly be modifying our setups here. Like I was talking earlier, I'm probably just gonna completely change the way that my setup is here in this room, just because it's a new year, new me type situation. So,
not new year, new me. I hate that fucking phrase. New year, better me.
Okay.
New year, better me, because I don't need a new Evo. I like the one I currently have. But if we want to improve on the model, little retrogrades, I'm good with that.
If the black water really starts to take hold a little bit more, we might be less thick and more beef.
Yeah,
but
that would be
it
awesome.
Happens. It happens.
Actually,
it is happening. Actually, slowly but surely, it is happening.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm doing some math. So guys, I apologize. The way my setup is, I don't have my TV up here, so I can just look straight up here and run the whole computer. So I got a laptop. I got two screens. Currently, these screens are what have our picks on it. I'm doing some math real quick, and then we're gonna hop in and start talking about some of the local shit that's going on.
But this is what I like, and I don't know if you're going to be happy with this or not, but I can just all of a sudden go, oh, we got multiple screens up here of Mike. We can see multi-angle Mike.
Yeah, I know, right? It's very good.
That's now the production value. We're just
production value. I'm going to need the
cameras all over the place.
The cameras here as well, because I got the webcams I can add as well. So let's see.
I'm going to have to add a camera for underneath my desk here, because unbeknownst to y'all, a lot of times I'm in here just Donald ducking it.
There you go.
So it'll be good for the OnlyFans content, which we promise will sometime it'll get out there. Right now you're getting the gray sweatpants dick print going, which I know is great for the ladies. But
that's what I'm wearing. It's gray sweatpants, baby. Let's go.
The season is only for so long, and
I try to make sure that
a lot of women.
Package.
there's a lot of women who watch the channel specifically for the husky male session. Husbands out there playing golf on a Saturday morning, and they just want a little reprieve and flick the bean. So we get it. You're probably more educated on sports a little bit more now because of it, just because you're using the session to learn. Talk to Jesus.
That's what we're here for. We're here to learn, right?
Yes, absolutely. But with that, we could probably jump into.
All right, let's do this.
We had a great little 12-minute intro here.
Yeah. All right, guys. So last night I got to call the Cleveland State women's game. Again, they're so fucking good at basketball. But last night was kind of weird. It kind of a tale of two games. The first half, they were absolutely dominant. They were beating the fuck out of University of Purdue Fort Wayne, or Indiana Purdue Fort Wayne, where the fuck they are, the Mastodons. At one point, the Cleveland State women were up 38-8. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, I don't really know what to say for some of these games because 12 minutes in, I had already repeated myself 4 times about how defense led the instant offense is like, this is just going to be an absolute fucking rout. Second half, though, the girls, while still playing okay, did not play their best basketball. When you take your foot off the gas and you allow a team to gain that momentum, they started to creep back in. At one point, they cut the lead down to fucking 12 and had all of the momentum inside the stadium. And there was a little nervous energy. Now, they were able to, hold it together, win the game by 18 overall. But there was 2 different games. When we saw top-tier Cleveland State at the beginning, we saw not great Cleveland State there in the middle portion. If great Cleveland State shows up, that's a team I think definitely makes a tournament and has a chance to maybe win a couple games. If we see the other Cleveland State team, they might be in trouble tomorrow when they take on IUPUI. Right now, they're on a 14-game win streak, I want to say. I should know this considering I read all the notes last night. Yes, they're on a 14-game win streak, which is the longest in school history. So they're kicking ass. Big, important game against IUPUI. Tomorrow, I will be there. I am not going to be on the game call. We have a former player, Britt. She's going to be calling the game along with Ed Doherty, but I'm going to try to go out there, help them out with some camera work because, I mean, we're a commuter school for the most part, and everybody's on fucking Christmas break. But I live close enough, and I ain't got nothing to do. I don't want to just sit at home and take vitamins, so I'll probably go and do some camera work.
Now, this is, again, I guess a little bit of a departure from the normal sports talk here, but you said they were playing Fort Wayne, Purdue, Indiana.
Indiana, Purdue, Fort Wayne, some shit like that.
So a fun historical fact for everyone out there about Fort Wayne, Indiana. Back in the 1940s, they had a mayor by the name of Harry Balls in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And Harry Balls, his campaign slogan on the pins and everything that they would hand out said, "I love my Harry Balls." So that's just a little history fact for you about small town America out there in the Midwest is former Mayor Harry Balls was out there.
Mayor Harry Balls in Fort Wayne. I can tell you that Fort Wayne's not great at the basketball right
now. Well, hopefully the airport's good because I'm going to be flying in there in a couple weeks.
Oh, yeah. Why are you flying into Fort Wayne?
Because it's only a 40-minute drive from my final destination.
Got it. Makes sense. All right.
But anyways, enough with the historical facts.
Yeah, I got nothing else. Here local, Graydon's got a wrestling tournament tomorrow. I'm not going to make it because I'm going to go help those guys out. But, I mean, he continues to do okay in wrestling. He's getting a lot of work at practice. Not so much at tournaments. There's just not that many big kids, so it is what it is. However, the fact that he's wrestling, 3 times, he was wrestling 4 times a week, wrestling 3 times a week, now is good. It's going to be great for him in football. They won that tournament. Was it last weekend or last Thursday? So it's great. But nothing really to report. We don't have another tournament until tomorrow. And there's not even a guarantee that he's going to get to fucking wrestle because they're doing duels. your squad versus another squad. If that squad does not have a fucking big boy, because he's wrestling 175 pounders now, and he weighs 146. Yeah, he's
Jesus.
yeah. So his last match, he learned that size does make a difference. Now the kid was a good wrestler. He's been wrestling for 4 years. I think he was 12, about to turn 13, and he was 100 and almost 175 pounds. He was at the top of the weight class. Graydon made it about 30 seconds into the first round, and then he was on his back getting pinned. Listen, right now he's in a position where he's gonna go against guys that have more experience, that are older, and now that he's wrestling the weight class up, they're gonna be bigger. So he's gonna have to really fucking find a little bit of young MAN and try to use his brain a little bit more, because he's not going to be able to overpower people like he would at his own weight class.
All right. Hey, it's a good thing to go in those challenging situations. I definitely remember jumping in, at least with like high school football, being on, JV team and stuff like that at a much younger age than normal, undersized, things like that, going up against guys that I considered men compared to me at that age, seniors and stuff like that. And that first year just being like, God damn, this is tough. But that sort of grit definitely carries on. It makes you sack up a little bit. So it'll be a test, and it'll be more of a, obviously a physical test in the moment, but mental test long term that will make them much better.
Yeah, and I remember my first year of wrestling, I got my fucking ass beat constantly. Like one time, I think I placed 4th at a tournament. Every other time, I didn't have more than 2 matches. And then when I went in for my second year of wrestling, I placed 1st or 2nd at every fucking meet tournament that we went to. So it's a learning process, and if you can stick with it, it will pay off in the end. But you got to have that mental toughness. And that's tough to ask a 10 to 12-year-old right now, but I think he's capable of it. So.
All righty. All right. What next? We got a little bit of sports to talk about. In the world of sports other than football, because football is obviously our main bread and butter. But a little bit of baseball news this week.
Yeah, we do got some baseball news, and this is something that we kind of prefaced. Was it last week? Maybe 2 weeks ago. Trevor Bauer, his suspension was cut down. He is cleared to be back in the league, but now he does not have a team. The Dodgers have parted ways with Trevor Bauer, making him a free agent. I believe that the Dodgers are still on the hook for the 40+ million that he was owed, because that's the way baseball contracts work. That's why if your son likes playing sports and you want to try to push him towards where money is guaranteed, make him play fucking baseball. Football is great. Football, you are a national star, but money is in baseball because all of that shit is guaranteed. Unless your son is, 6'9", and then definitely push him towards the NBA, because that's a way simpler life. But he's not going to have a team. I don't know if anybody picks him up. We talked about this before. Can he come back and be the guy that he was at a Cy Young level? Or are we if he's going to come back and he's going to be a +4 ERA guy, there's no point in bringing him back. And if you do bring him in, you got to bring him in on the cheap. But is Trevor Bauer, with his ego, going to go to a non-contender?
I don't know. I guess the only, kind of parlance that I can get with this situation right now would be a Deshaun Watson style situation. And not to dog on your Browns, but they haven't been the best this year. They technically are not a contender, and it is where he's going to try to rebuild his career. And it's definitely a different situation because he was traded and whatnot, even though Deshaun was very much so involved in that trade and where he went. But and you could definitely see a hangover from not playing ball for that long. There's a lot of growth that he has to have, both as a person and a player, again, I believe, in order to prove that he can play in this league. The difference is that, and I guess it's not truly a difference, but, he could theoretically just never play again and be perfectly fine money-wise. So,
Trevor Bauer is set. That contract that he signed with the Dodgers was insane. It was fucking so much money. like a 3-year, 120 or some shit like that. It was a shorter deal, a lot of fucking money. I think he was one of the first guys to go AVP over $40 million a year, or had the highest AVP at one point. So he made a shit ton of cash. He does stuff on his social media. They run Momentum. They do the live at bats. They got the fucking King of JUCO doing shit there. So they're making content. They're making money. But I think Trevor wants to pitch. He's a very competitive guy. He's also a very, I think, egotistical guy sometimes. So I don't know if he accepts a deal to go play on a non-contender to try to get himself back in the league, because he views himself as one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, and the layoff from baseball, his layoff as of right now, would be shorter than what it was for Deshaun, and I believe that there's more of a historical precedent set for a pitcher or a baseball player to be able to come back and
still perform about Tommy John.
Yeah.
You can be off for a lot longer in baseball. I mean, there are dudes that went to fucking World War II and then came back and were dominant afterward. Obviously, much different era of baseball, but it is possible to be laid off for longer in baseball than it is in football and come back and be good. Plus, it's easier to practice those mechanics in baseball on your own outside of a team than it is for football. Like they do live at bats constantly up at their little studio and stadium. So he's constantly throwing pitches. They have all sorts of fucking technology to figure out spin rate, spin axis. Like he's probably pretty dialed in, but he hasn't faced big league hitters in quite some time. So I don't know.
Yeah. I would expect that he will play again. Honestly, I feel like a team is going to need a pitcher, and they're going to go for him if they can. And at some point in time, there's going to be that delta, that convergence where he will decide that it is worth it to come back. A team will decide that it's worth it to sign him, and it might be on a lesser team, but it'll probably end up happening.
I would love to see him come back to the Guardians. I don't think it would work. I don't think the dynamic between him and Francona would work. And I could foresee us trading a pitcher here in the near future. So if we need to boost up that back end of the fucking rotation for a season, because you got to sign. I don't think you can sign him for anything more than a 1-year deal at this point.
Yeah, it depending if it was like mid-season or something like that, and maybe like you try to get a 2-year or year and a half essentially at that point type thing, so that way you have a little break-in period and a little something else in order to try to possibly trade him or something if you could, or if you
but to. Like if he signs before the season starts, he doesn't get anything longer than a 1-year deal, because you don't know who you're getting.
Yeah, I think that's fair. All right, is there anything else major with baseball?
They still don't know what the fuck is happening with Carlos Correa. The Mets are getting increasingly frustrated with the contract negotiations. There's some language in the contract that I think neither side likes. They want to get that worked out, but Correa is trying to protect himself, get himself some fucking money, considering that his medicals have come back twice bad.
Yeah, and I've seen it again where there's talks of the Twins potentially being back involved in the talks with him if they can get at him. And I'm like, just leave it the fuck alone, man. You knew what you had in the guy. You saw it. And you ended up pulling yourself out of the race in some of these things because the money was just too much. And if you got two major organizations that have made big time money offers towards a guy and then they've backed out on it, if it smells like piss, it looks like piss, it tastes like piss, it's probably piss. There's something to this where obviously, again, it is that convergence of he's got talent and you're gonna have to pay him money, but both those things are gonna meet at some point where it's like, all right, he wants to play baseball, we're willing to fork out more than we're comfortable with, but not as much as he was being offered right now, type thing. It'll probably,
you can't do the years.
It'll happen.
The years is like, because the reason that the deals have fallen through and they're not done is because the medicals. That's something that we talked about. Like, he failed the physical with the Giants. That's why they were out of the deal. They were able to get out of the deal because he failed the physical. I think that there were issues with the Mets organization. I don't think they've said that he failed the physical, but they have concerns about what they're seeing in the medicals. So how do you give a guy $300 million over 10 years when you're not sure that he's going to be good for the next 2 based on the medicals? You're going to have to shorten the deal. Correa is going to have to take probably a shorter deal and just try to maximize dollars while he can. But I don't know if like you can continue to talk about these crazy numbers that we were seeing before and numbers that we thought were a little higher in the range than what maybe he deserved, especially compared to some of the other guys that got signed at the same position.
Yeah. I was out on Correa from the get-go for my Twins. Having had him here this previous year didn't make very much of a difference. I'm not going to say he's not a good player. I just think that the cost at this point, the cost last year was too much for us. So him getting more just doesn't add up to me. But obviously go out there and make that bag, do your thing.
Yeah, listen, we are very much team player on this show. I don't think that we've ever been like, fuck that guy for trying to make his money. I don't think that's ever come out of either one of our mouths, even when we're talking about guys that are on our team, guys that we love. Well, I think we've been very much team player, and I will still continue to be team player. Get your dollars, because none of these happen for very long. So maximize, create generational wealth for you and your family for however long you can.
No, if you're a player and you can get that sort of money, more power to you.
Fucking take it. Yeah, 100%. If you got to go somewhere else, even. Yeah, if you got to go, even if you have to go somewhere else, get your fucking bag when you can. I'm 100% cool with that. But you also need to live in reality and say, okay, maybe this is too much. But we'll hop off of that. Another big deal that happened, Major League Baseball, Rafael Devers gets signed. Massive fucking deal. I think 11-year, $331 million. This is some money that I can see making sense. The Red Sox have been getting murdered in free agency. They have gotten nobody that they wanted. They have traded away multiple talented guys, Mookie Betts being the biggest one that comes to mind. It's like, man, how'd you let Mookie get out of the building? You go try to make a splash with Trevor Story. It doesn't work out. You lose Andrew Bogarts. Finally, you lock up a centerpiece to your organization at the hot corner. 11-year, $331. Devers is great. He's an all-star. I believe he probably deserves some higher MVP consideration considering what he does for that team. So good for the Red Sox. Good for Devers. But again, we see these massive, super long-term deals, 11 for $331.
Mm-hmm. All righty. You ready to jump over to the NBA?
Yeah, we'll get off of baseball. We'll talk about the NBA. So I am going to talk about the Cavs, but I'm not going to talk about the Cavs as an organization. I'm going to talk about the fucking spider. Donovan Mitchell goes off the other night for 71. Highest point total in Cleveland Cavaliers history, beating the names of guys like LeBron James. Leads them to a double overtime or overtime win. I don't remember if it was double or not. There was other shit happening that night. That was the same night as Thursday night football. Or I'm sorry, Monday night football. And obviously there were more important things going on. But that performance is impressive. It's drastically needed. Garland is out. The Cavs are still sitting in a good position in the standings. They are currently fourth at 25-15. They are 2.5 games back out of first. And he's been absolutely what all Cavaliers fans and the organization has hoped for since he's got here. He's playing at an MVP level. Congrats to Donovan Mitchell, the Spider. Keep fucking going, man. This town will rally around the Cavs for sure. They've done it once, and they will absolutely do it again, even if your name is not LeBron James.
Yeah, huge point total. We're talking like old school Kobe type numbers and stuff like that to be putting up that many
That
points.
is the most since Kobe put up the 81.
And we did see a performance like that from Luka.
Which we also need to talk about. I think his performance is more impressive than Donovan Mitchell's. Now, 71 points is nothing to sneeze at, but Luka went for 60. That's
Yeah.
not as many as 71. If you're a mathematician, you can figure that out. But he got a fucking triple double with 60 points. The only guy in history to put up a 60 burger while recording a triple double. The greats of Wilt Chamberlain and guys like who had the ability to do that never did that. That is special from a fucking point guard, a white, fucking European point guard puts up a 60 burger and drops a triple double. That's insane. The the Mavs got an absolutely generational talent. And I saw this post on Twitter. Luka is going to be
The best white player ever.
White basketball player that's ever played.
Yeah, I saw that as well. Larry Bird being like, "Who?" It is, yeah. It is what it is. I think that he's definitely on that track right now.
Yeah, he's been fantastic. He's the reason that the Mavs are, I think, still in. Let me check the standings here. Yeah, they're fourth out there in the West and playing good basketball. And he's a big reason why they've taken some swings and they've missed. They didn't miss on fucking Luka. That kid is special. But do you got anything else basketball wise you want to talk about?
No, I don't think so. And I think probably our last thing to go over here before we jump into the NFL football is the fact that we have the college football playoffs going on, and we know what our championship game is going to be.
Yeah, it was a absolute heartbreaker for Ohio State fans. We were over at a friend's house for New Year's, and I called it. I said, no, Georgia's going to score here. We're going to lose by a point. We're going to miss the field goal to the left. I don't know if you watched the game at all.
It was on at the bar.
Yeah, based on the way Ruggles kicked the 48-yarder, he had to get some extra leg into it. And that thing was tailing left hard when it went through the uprights. And he didn't have a ton of extra space. So now he's kicking the 50-yarder to win. Well, the last one from 48, you started to turn hard left. You're kicking this thing off the left hash, and it never had a chance. The meme going on is, okay, so chance to win the game, and the kicker's fucking pointed over here on Madden. We're just going to miss this shit.
And that kicker on Madden, that picture, is Blair Walsh of the Minnesota Vikings. We'll point that out.
Yeah, it was tough, man. It was tough because you could see that we were probably the better team that night.
Yeah, that's what I walked away from the game of being like, Ohio State is legit. They are taking it to Georgia right now. They are playing probably their best game of the year when it mattered the most. And they were playing phenomenally. And it really just kind of fell apart there at the end from some really big game-breaking plays from Georgia, some really deep touchdown passes, things like that.
Yeah. And CJ Stroud stepped up when he had to. I mean, you're talking about a potential number one pick on the biggest stage, plays lights out, but we lost our best playmaker and the best wide receiver in the country in Marvin Harrison Jr. on what looked like was called targeting on the field and then reversed to a non-targeting call. That's a big letdown. When you lose your best pass catcher, especially with the way CJ Stroud was throwing it, like that's gonna change what you can call on the offensive side of the ball. We were never able to, rebound fully from losing him, and it ended the way it ended. But we also had on the other side, Michigan goes out there, and the score I think is a little closer than the game actually was. TCU took it to fucking Michigan. They were able to hit big play after big play after big play. And now they're in the national championship game, Georgia TCU.
Yeah, that game ended with a questionable non-targeting call as well. There's a lot of stuff coming out from Michigan where they're upset about that game, and in many ways rightfully so. But like you said, TCU looked legit out there.
Yeah, they do. They look really fucking good. Now, I would imagine the line is out. I have not looked at what the line is. I bet it's probably 7 points in favor of Georgia, would be my guess.
We should be able
Take
to
a look real
hopefully
quick.
see this.
As soon as I log back in.
Yeah.
Oh, 12 and a half. Whew.
And I could believe that because, and not to discredit TCU, but national media is still going to be looking at them as such a heavy underdog. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, who on their bingo card for the new year had fucking TCU in the national championship game? Nobody.
Well, I mean, they weren't top 25 to begin.
Yeah. So they've been on a great run. I'd like to see it continue. I mean, I don't necessarily want to see the SEC win another national title. It's nothing to do with Georgia. I'm just tired of the fucking SEC. Because their top teams are really fucking good at football. Their bottom teams are atrocious, but I mean, they're back there again because those top tier teams are some of the top teams in the country. I'm pulling for TCU. 12 and a half sounds like something that I could probably play with and maybe take TCU to cover that, especially if they can find ways to make some chunk plays happen like they did against Michigan. But Michigan looked lost, and they got they got a ton of problems up there in Michigan now. They're being investigated for potential NCAA violations. Harbaugh is talking about going elsewhere, and I believe that is probably tied to the fact that there's possible NCAA violations. But I think we've seen about the last of Michigan being a dominant team for a couple of years, depending on the way this NCAA investigation turns out.
Yeah, and I know that's something that you're probably salivating at, so that you can kind of knock them down one day. And then what can I say? I'm in the same situation with the Packers here. I'm slowly watching things unravel and devolve, and I can't wait for the next decade or two of that being an issue for them.
And you guys had a chance to bury them.
Last week. We can talk about that later.
Okay.
Yes.
But anything else on college football?
No, I don't think so. I mean, unfortunate about your game. Like I said, I was watching that one while I was there at the bar, having a couple drinks, and I just felt bad for you because obviously it was there in the grasp, and it just kind of faded away, which is difficult.
It was tough, and especially with a house full of Ohio State fans, it was kind of soured the mood. We rang in New Year's, and then immediately after, watched the shankiest of shank kicks.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not Blair Wall shank, but it was pretty fucking close.
Yeah. I mean, it is, as a Vikings fan, we wear purple because we're purple in the face from all these different letdowns, and so many of them have come on kicks, whether it be Blair Walsh or back all the way to 1998, where Gary Anderson in the NFC Championship game misses his only field goal of the entire year to not send us to the Super Bowl.
That's tough. God, that's tough.
Yeah, it was a rough one. But all right, well, with that, I guess we can probably get into our bread and butter, the NFL. We are in the final week of the regular season after a relatively tumultuous week 17. I guess while we're here, before we really get into everything, you got your sports betting lines of how we did last week, so we can see if we were great or terrible or how we did, because I honestly stopped paying attention.
Yeah, I did as well. We're going to see something a little different here on the little score sheet. How's that showing up? Do I need to zoom in? Yeah, I'll zoom in one. There we go. All right. So this is what we got for last week. I go 9-6. You go 10-5. Decent weeks. But we can see the Bengals and the Bills game still there in white. There will be no bets there. All bets through the sports books were canceled anyways. At least I know they were on FanDuel. I believe they were on basically every sports book because it was called a no contest. So everything was refunded. So good week overall. I got some additional numbers next to mine. That's money in for the wins compared to the money out. I did this math once already, but let me do it again real quick. Make sure I'm giving the right numbers here.
Yeah, it was it was an interesting week. We both were off on Philly there. Gardner didn't come through for us. Really thought the Panthers had a chance there to take down the Bucks and make that competitive out there. Obviously not the situation. 49ers, while getting the win, did not cover that point spread. Much more difficult game for them. Jets didn't look great to the point now that we got Flacco going this week. Their season is pretty much done. And then my Vikings there at the bottom, that was a painful one. Again, I'm willing to discuss this as we get further into it. Is upsetting in many regards, but at least I can, with some bias, I suppose, added into it, make some good out of it.
Yeah, we crushed the early games. Afternoon games, we had a little tougher time. Now we picked the Niners to cover. They did not get that done. They did win, but they did not get a cover there. Commanders fell flat on their face. I mean, which was great for the Browns, but kind of went against what I thought would happen. Carson Wentz is still just a fucking anomaly. I don't understand what Ron Rivera was thinking in that scenario. We saw some comments from Taylor Heineke that Sam Howell deserves to get a full start. So good on Heineke for being a leader, and good on Sam Howell for working his way up and getting the chance to play. I think the Carson Wentz experience is done, man. Like the team plays better with Heineke. They're going to have Sam Howell play their third quarterback. I think they're done there with Wentz and that fiasco that's going on.
I think it's more than Carson Wentz that's probably done there at this point. I like Ron Rivera as a coach. I like him as a motivator and stuff like that. I think that the tide is turning there where you could very well see Rivera being done as well. That the whole not understanding whether or not you have a chance to still make it to the playoffs or not.
It's tough look as a head coach.
Whether or not that's true or not, his comments were his comments. And if you're playing Wentz, it seems like you're wanting to tank. Maybe the team doesn't truly think that because of what we've talked about before, egos and things. But if you're putting Wentz out there, in my opinion, yes, Heineke hadn't been getting it done, but he still has been a more consistent, better option for you for the entire year and the entire previous year, even though Wentz wasn't there. We've seen what Wentz is. He's washed up. He's ate up. He's not as good as he was in Philly, and I think a lot of what he was in Philly was a guy that was on a team with a lot more talent around him, making him look a lot better. That's why you saw Big Dick Foles go out there that year and do so well for them in the playoffs, when Big Dick Foles is also not a good quarterback. Again, we saw this, out of him. So the Wentz experiment is done, not just for the Commanders, probably for the NFL. The guy, I can't imagine being anything more than a backup, maybe a high upside backup to a team. But if you want to pay that sort of a money for him, which is ridiculous in my mind. Yeah. So it is what it is there for the Washington football team. Commanders with Major Tuddy now as their mascot.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up when we got to their pick, but since you brought it up, that is the worst mascot in the history of fucking sports.
It's pretty terrible. It seems like they're trying to tank on their franchise as well. If I'm trying to sell my team, I'm not adding ridiculous shit like this.
No, and I was going to talk about that. I think Ron Rivera has a chance to be safe. Now, obviously, not knowing that you have a chance to make the playoffs still is pretty goddamn egregious as a head coach. But did the Snyders bring in a new coach when they're in the process of selling the team?
Depends on how quick the sale of the team happens. If the sale of the team happens this offseason, and relatively quick, which their offseason starts after this weekend.
Yeah.
It kind of starts now because the team is done. But if the offseason begins sooner, you never know how quick the team could be sold.
Yeah.
And a new regime coming in could start.
If they don't get the
really
sale done
strings.
if they don't get the sale done this offseason, I think Ron Rivera is safe, because why bring in another guy that you're bringing in, you're going to sell the team, and he's going to get the hook anyways.
Yeah.
But it is the Snyders, and they are known to do some shady shit, so who knows?
We'll see.
But,
either way, our totals, no Thursday night football this week. We are done with Thursday night games for the year. That puts your win percentage at 54.1%, mine at 60.7%. We're still doing pretty damn hot there. We're right more often than not. And you said you were adding up these totals of what you got here. You put 10 in for every game, correct?
10 in for every game, so it would have been $140 in, because I did not bet the Thursday night game because it was not legal here yet, and the Bengals game we're not counting. I got that money back, so $140 in. My total came out, so I only got $126.14. So I did lose a little bit of money. I needed a couple of those spread games that I picked to hit to really go over, and I missed on some spreads. Hit a bunch of money lines, so I didn't lose much money. But anytime you're betting these games, when you're betting money line on the heavy favorite, like we see the Chiefs, I only made $1.22 on the Chiefs because I can't trust them to cover. So that is one of the dichotomies of sports gambling. Depending on what you pick is going to be your payout, right? Like, so if you have a team like the Chiefs that you can't trust to cover, maybe don't bet them, or it's tough. Like, that's the way sports gambling works sometimes. I hit a plus percentage, but based on not hitting some of the spreads, I did not get the payout that I was hoping for.
Yep. And I guess with that, we can kind of roll into the events of this week. Specifically, the main thing that we are going to be talking about is that Buffalo-Cincinnati game, which had major playoff implications. At the time, Cincinnati was still in the running for that first seed. Technically, that obviously changed when Kansas City, got their win. But as everyone is, I'm sure, aware of by now, because even though it's been less than a week, it feels like it's been almost 2 weeks since Damar Hamlin took a clean hit, a bang hit. He made the tackle. Unfortunately, as we know, went into cardiac arrest after that hit, collapsed on the field. CPR was performed. He was resuscitated on the field. It was scary for everyone involved, both teams, both coaches, everyone in the stands. People were crying. The commentators didn't actually, know how to talk. I've listened to reports from members of the media, like from The Athletic. One of the reporters there was talking about how, he's in the stands watching with binoculars and being like, okay, this is something, injury. Okay, it looks like it's something serious. This isn't necessarily that unusual. Why is everyone so quiet? Why is the ambulance being rolled out there? And once you start seeing CPR being done, there's an anecdote of, you don't do CPR on a living person.
Right. It's very true.
So very, very scary situation. Something that, in my years of watching football, I've never seen anything like this. I think that's the case for most people. Thankfully, as we should all know by now, if you don't know this and you're watching the show, I'm honestly pretty surprised. And thanks for using us as your main mode of transportation for sports news. But probably should have been paying attention to the Facebook page, because I've been trying to keep everyone up to date with any sort of updates and stuff that we see, posting that on there. But Damar Hamlin was taken by ambulance to the hospital. His mother was brought into that ambulance with him after they had restored his heartbeat on the field. Got to the hospital, was sedated, breathing tube inserted, and has progressed almost every day to being off less of 100% support for oxygen to 50% support for oxygen, to vitals coming back, waking up, being able to write the story that we saw, who won the game to the doctors, and that, generally cute story or whatever that the NFL puts out about how it told him that he won the game.
Yeah.
Breathing tube coming out, him being able to talk to his team via a video chat yesterday.
That's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a comment here from Joe Rockstar. Unpopular opinion, Goodell said at one point we're focused on Darnell's recovery when asked about rescheduling the game. I don't know if that's an unpopular opinion.
I mean, I'm gonna get into some of that once we kind of get into this a little bit, and I guess we could start now.
Well, that's I was going to, like I said earlier, I'm unhappy with the NFL. I have been unhappy with the NFL about a lot of previous things, and this situation doesn't change the way that I feel. I'm not going to go through all the different stats and notes and stuff that I have. I'm just going to kind of roll off the cuff with a little bit of it. And it's about taking care of your players.
Yeah.
We don't know why this happened to Hamlin. It could be a previous medical condition at this point. It could be a number of things. It could just be a random freak occurrence. The NFL can't prepare for that. That's understandable. It's in general how players are going to be treated, not just him, but many players who are, let's be real, fringe players. Darnell Hamlin was not a big household name before this event. It's not like he had big jersey sales. Things like that. He did
become a starter, but due to some injuries, as a 5th round pick guy, was a pretty good contributor on that team when he got his chance. But no, not a big name guy. Not a lot of people probably know who DeMar Hamlin is until this event.
But as Joe Rockstar has said here, it's all posturing by the NFL. The NFL is a business. They like PR. Good PR is good. Bad PR can be turned into good PR for them, and they are going to ride this fucking train as long as they can. And I think that probably played somewhat into what they ended up doing with this game. My big thing that I wanted to get into is players are not taken very good care of when they are in the league, and even more so when they're out of the league, particularly with their pensions and stuff like that. Now, it's easy to say, oh, like if a Patrick Mahomes gets hurt and can never play again, it's okay. He has a bed of money to sleep on and endorsements and all that stuff. That makes sense. But for a vast majority of the players, they are on minimal contracts, 1 year, 2 year. The lifespan of an NFL player is only a couple years in the NFL. In order to get onto the NFL's pension plan, you have to play for, I believe, a minimum of 4 seasons.
4.
And that's like beyond contract for 4 seasons. And you don't really get that much help. The rules actually changed through this new CBA in this last offseason, which negatively impacted the players. It went from them getting a pension at like 45 to now like 60. It took the money that they were getting monthly from something like $6,000 down to like 3,500 or something like that, or 4,500. And I get what you're saying here, Joe. They're not forced to play football. I agree with that. The difference is that in this organization, the NFL, it makes so much fucking money, and they talk so much about taking care of their players, but they're not willing to skim a little bit off the top to take care of these guys that are progressing the shield day in and day out. If a guy goes out there and plays 1 snap and then is paralyzed for the rest of his life, that guy isn't taken care of.
No, he's not. Not at all.
He's not. No matter how good or bad he is, if the NFL wants to continue talking about how much they are about the players and their legacy and everything, you are part of the statistical improbability of making it into the NFL. You're part of the 1% of the 1% to ever get to go and do something like this in your life. And it takes so little from the NFL and their ownership to take care of their people for the long term, for the rest of their life. We can go to the TBI stuff, the concussion settlements. So much has come out about the NFL and how they hid the concussion stuff for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And now, yeah, they're starting to take care of guys, but they're promoting that they are. It's something like only 30% of cases have actually been accepted yet. And people actually seeing any sort of compensation for it. Yes, the players do know what they're getting into, and given the choice of whether or not they're going to, knowing the risks now, whether or not they're going to continue to play, yeah, they're probably going to continue to play. But it's just a different situation when you are part of such an elite organization that the NFL should be willing to do what they can to take care of their players in such a fashion that they're good for the rest of their life. You're not talking about some sort of globalized healthcare and compensation system for everyone within the country type thing. You're talking about such a minimum swath of people, and the amount of money is so minimal. If the NFL really cared about it, it was if you play one snap in the NFL, you're taken care of, and you can start collecting on that much earlier in your life. You can, if you get an injury that is life altering or doesn't allow you to perform your job, you start collecting on that initially. And the NFL, it treats the players almost like slaves, where they can just kind of discard them, and then that they make so much more money compared to what the little man does.
Yeah.
And they don't care about that PM once you're gone. It would take so little in comparison. And I understand we're talking about hundreds of millions of thousands and millions of dollars here to pay for all this. The NFL is getting $3.5 billion a year just from a TV contract. That isn't even like the biggest shit for them, Yeah, like it's like VA for players. Mike and I both take advantage of this. One of the good things about having been in the military is we are compensated for some of the things that have happened to us through our time in the military. It can be a fight and it can be a struggle to get compensation from the VA, but at least we're getting something, and we're getting something now. We're not getting something when we're 60 years old, where we're at the tail end of our life. The NFL should be willing to do the same. And that's something that then they can truly promote. If they want to get the good PR from it, we take care of all of our people. Every single one of them that ever plays under the shield, we take care of them from day one. They should be willing to do that. It's disappointing to see. And DeMar is probably going to be an anomaly, because if he never plays a game again in his life, I'm sure he will be taken care of by that Bills organization at the very least.
Yeah, because of what happened was so startling. The Bills will absolutely find a way to take care of DeMar in any way they can. I can't expect the NFL to do the same. And I can say that pretty resounding, because the NFL was talking about giving these players a 5-minute fucking break, sending them into the locker room, and then coming out and playing a game again when they just watched their teammate die on the fucking field and had to be resuscitated. To even consider trying to start that game back up, that was the NFL trying to make money. I understand the NFL is a business.
Troy Vincent has come out and said that's not the case. Say what you will about Troy Vincent as a player, but everything that I've seen since he's been an executive in the NFL, he's been a real piece of shit. He has done everything to protect the shield. Covered up shit, side talk shit. I do not like Troy Vincent as an executive. I think that he's a fucking scumbag. I got no problem saying that. He came out and said, oh, no, we weren't actually considering that. But everything on the field shows that the refs told them, okay, 5 minutes, get ready, warm up, get ready to play again. And it took the coaches coming together and being like,
saying, hey, we're not fucking doing this.
Not happening. Yeah. This is, bigger than football. And in the moment, it absolutely was. So good on the coaches, man. I mean, good on the coaches understanding that the human effect on their players and on the country, really watching that happen. And the NFL, again, they're there to make money. They want to play the game. They want to avoid a situation that we're going to go over of how the playoffs and things are going to play out now. But be damned if they're not going to ride Hamlin's coattails to as much positive PR as they can.
100%. It's what the NFL does, man. I get it. They are a business. They are a very successful business. They're a multi-billion-dollar business. They're in the business of making money. I get it. But like you said, you cannot fucking promote, or we care about our players and player safety, and then say, okay, you guys got 5 minutes. Those are two very conflicting fucking things that we shouldn't have to make that decision. As a player, you shouldn't be forced into like, no, fuck this, I'm out. Thank God the coaches said, no, we're not doing this. My guys can't go back out there and got this game fucking basically canceled. The fact that they didn't play that night is what led to the no contest being ruled, because there's no way to make it up because it's so late in the season. So good on them for that. My thoughts and prayers are still with Damar Hamlin. I'm glad he's doing better. I'm glad he was able to do a little Zoom call and talk to his guys and, kind of give them uplifting things. I hope that T. Higgins is doing well as well, because he was tore up about what happened. He's walking out of the stadium crying with his mother because obviously he feels very guilty.
And I mean,
it's totally innocuous fucking football play. It's a normal football play.
He got so much hate from people on social media, which is just how this current day and age works, is people look for someone to point the finger at and blame. So they go at him because he was a part of the play. But uncalled for, ridiculous. And it's nice to have seen the Bills players come out and be like, hey, people need to stop this. This is uncalled for. It's ridiculous that people resort to that. Obviously, it's a very emotional situation and people are going to react uncouth, but it was difficult for everybody involved. I mean, it's affecting players around the league, guys who have played with Damar in college. Miles Sanders, running back, is one of his best friends, and he's had a rough go of it because, I mean, one of your brothers, we know this from being in the locker room. The guys to your left and your right are like brothers to you. You become a family, and even after you split and go your different ways, you're still a family at that point. So it's you truly feel like you could have lost a family member in that instance. But all of this aside, we're not going to go the Skip Bayless route and on the same night.
I tweeted this. I think what Skip said was not wrong. It was misinterpreted. What he was saying at the end was that everything else now is irrelevant. Of course, the NFL is thinking about how to reschedule this game, or that the game needs to go on. I think Skip was saying kind of what we said, that the NFL wants this thing to happen, but really it's kind of irrelevant. And I think it was misread, but it was also very poorly worded by somebody who is on national media every fucking day and should understand.
Known for being a heel.
Yeah, because the way it's worded is not great.
Yeah.
You have to kind of read between it. He even went on and defended himself against, Shannon Sharp, saying, no, because my intent, what I said was this. What you guys interpreted was something entirely different.
And I do give credit there. It's just, it was very poorly done.
Yeah.
And you got to have a little bit more, awareness in the moment. And that's, at the end of the day, everything that we say going forward, it's Damar is being safe and fine is ultimately what we want.
Yes,
at the end of the
absolutely.
day, if this, it affects the playoffs, the schedule, the seating, all that stuff, that sucks.
It's irrelevant.
Who gives a fuck when it comes down to human life?
It's fucking irrelevant. Yeah.
So
100% agree. Now, this is the second time I've ever heard about something like this happening. I've never seen it. But there was a young man playing in Sierra Vista this last year, had the same thing happen. Luckily, there were doctors, nurses on the field. They were able to resuscitate the young man, and he is doing okay. But it's highly likely that that young man and Damar will never play again. I don't know what doctor ever clears you after you have something like that happen, with the damage that happened to your heart, your lungs, and luckily not too much that we've noticed so far, but your brain function, considering how long it took to resuscitate DeMar Hamlin. 8 to 10 minutes is a fucking long time to not have oxygen pump and blood pumping through your body. That is an astronomical amount of time. And I'm very happy that he seems to be regaining all of his cognitive abilities as well. But it's very likely that they'll never play again, and it's probably not safe for them to play again. If somebody does clear him, I'm going to be scared for him every time I see him hit somebody until it's been a little while and we know, okay, he's fine.
I think a lot of it comes down to if they can actually narrow down any specific reason other than just a freak 1 in a trillion accident type thing.
Well, and this is something that can happen.
Stuff.
I've seen or I've heard about it in baseball, taking a line drive off the chest and it hits at the right fucking time, stops your heart. What they're saying kind of sounds like that could have happened unless we find out that there's some underlying issue that, was unknown. It's a scary thing. Now, as a youth football coach, as a father of a child who plays football, is that scary? Yes. Will there be parents who pull their kids out of football? Yeah, probably. Will we see NFL players retire early because of the things that they witness? I think that there's a likelihood that we will see a couple early retirements as well.
I mean, we've seen that trend starting to happen more recently anyways, where players are actually, once they've made a little bit of money, they're willing to say, hey, I'm good now. I'm good.
Yeah, because you don't need to destroy your life or give your life for the game. But will there be guys who go out there and are warriors and go out there and lay their bodies on the line every day for the next, 10 to 20 years, depending on the position you play? Yeah. This is a tough situation. I'm not going to blame anybody for whatever they decide to do. I would imagine that obviously Graydon knows about the story. He's going to want to continue to play football. The likelihood of this happening is very small, but the fact that now it is known that this can happen will sway the minds of some people.
Yeah, it's the conversation that my girl and I had, immediately afterwards of whether or not she'd want her sons to play football. And what I told her is like, these things happen. I mean, I had a severe injury, which impacted my life, for the rest of my life with my leg. These things happen and it's part of the game, and there's a lot of pros to it, a lot of cons to playing the sports. You can walk down the street in the south side of Chicago and have a higher chance of dying than you do playing football, but it's all mitigating risk and accepting risk in life situations, things like that. And that's it's a conversation for every individual person, every individual family. So if it comes down to you not wanting your kids to play certain sports, it's understandable. If you let them play certain sports, it's understandable. It's different for everybody.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So do you have anything else on DeMar?
DeMar specifically, no, not at this point. But obviously there are large implications from this. Like we said, both Buffalo and Cincinnati were fighting for that 1 seed. 1 seed is still up for grabs there in the AFC with Buffalo and Kansas City. Kansas City has it right now. The NFL had to act to figure out how are we going to adjust the schedule? Are we going to replay this game? Are we not? Are we going to move things around in the playoffs? Are we going to add an extra team to each conference in the playoffs?
Thank God they didn't do that.
So many things were floated. And it came down where this game is being ruled a no contest. It will not count towards the records. So while everyone else has played 17 games, these teams will have only played 16. And we have a fairly convoluted, difficult, somewhat to understand set of scenarios because the season is not over. After this week, we will have a much more clear idea of how the playoffs are going to look. Cincinnati's still in the playoffs. Buffalo's still in the playoffs. That's good. I do not think that there is any way that the NFL could have fixed this situation where everyone gets the same fair competitive advantage. Everyone gets the same outcome that they could have expected. And that's unfortunate. The NFL seemed like they were trying to mitigate as much possible unfairness as they could. In the end of the day, I think that the situation that they came up with maybe isn't the best in my opinion, but while it does create situations for some teams that both teams aren't going to be happy with, it doesn't create an unfair advantage necessarily for both teams. The team that's getting the raw end of the stick for all of this will be Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And it goes beyond this season where they have reason to be upset here, and a lot of it goes into what happens this weekend between Baltimore and Cincinnati. I do have this little graphic to throw up here that's been getting floated around. Let me see here. All right, make sure that my porn doesn't pop up. So we have the AFC Championship neutral game site scenarios. So on the left side of our screen here, we have all of our games that are impacted basically from this decision happening this weekend. You've got Kansas City at Las Vegas, New England at Buffalo, and Baltimore at Cincinnati. And the Baltimore at Cincinnati is really a big one here.
Yeah, that's the game that's really going to decide the majority of what happens.
Yep. The lists down here just below are who won that game in each of these three scenarios, and then how their seeding will end up working out. And then when it comes to an AFC Championship game, where that championship would be played based on how this week plays out. So you see, and there's a lot of sports media out there that has done a very good job of explaining this. The big thing for us here to really look at is the neutral site stuff. This is something that we haven't really seen other than we've had stadiums not be playable in, such as we had one earlier this year that had to be played at a neutral site. My Vikings have had it where the Metrodome roof collapsed and we had to play in Detroit, considered a neutral site at that point. For some of these situations, if you have a Buffalo and KC, Buffalo did not play as many games as Kansas City. So if it comes down to an AFC Championship game between them, the seeding might have changed a little bit because of not playing as many games. And they'll end up having to choose a neutral site, which will be picked by the commissioner. And there's questions about whether or not they'll shoot for an indoor stadium or an outdoor stadium, because both of these are outdoor teams, things like that. Where will it be played? I think Lucas Oil in Indianapolis makes the most sense.
Yeah, I was talking about that last night with Ed Doherty. It's got to be there because Detroit's doing upgrades to their field. I would love for them to do an outdoor game, because all three of these teams that we're talking about are outdoor teams. Send them over to fucking Cleveland. I guarantee that stadium will be packed.
And I know Pittsburgh has been talked about, Heinz Field, as an option as well.
Yeah, Pittsburgh could be.
But we have that same sort of situation down here at the bottom where we're talking about Cincinnati versus KC. That same situation could happen over here. The other thing that was brought up by one of our people chatting in here is that there could be a coin flip situation going on here. So Cincinnati has won their division. They are playing Baltimore this week. Baltimore is also in the playoffs. If Baltimore beats if Baltimore beats Cincinnati, Baltimore will have beaten Cincinnati twice this year, have played more games, yet they still have lost the division. It creates interesting scenarios as to who gets the home field advantage. Typically, who wins the division has home field advantage until you start playing other division winners. Right. And then that's when it comes down to records,
divisional records.
Specifically, win percentage is the way that the NFL calculates it. Right. Obviously, Cincinnati feels shorted here because if they won the division, they should be playing at home. However, Baltimore technically played more games, had more opportunity to lose games. Same thing could have been said for Cincinnati at that point if they had played all their games. So they will end up going to a coin flip, which, they're playing this week. They could play next week in the wild card against each other again. And it seems like a very likely scenario. So a coin flip would occur to see whose stadium that they play at. It's tough to do in a week's time frame because, and look, when it comes down to the NFL, owners want to get their cut of the money. They want those games to be played at their stadium so that way they get a different cut of the money. There's probably a bunch of legalese behind the scenes that we don't know of how the money's going to get split up, but that plays a big role. It also plays a big role when it comes down to draft selection. Which spot you end up in, where you pick in the draft. It comes down to schedules for the next year. Theoretically, this could screw Cincinnati and give them a more difficult schedule. I don't remember the exact scenarios that was talked about on the Pat McAfee show by, I believe, not Ian Rappaport or someone.
Yeah, the rap sheet's the one that goes on Pat McAfee show.
They were talking about, based on if Kansas City wins this game tomorrow or loses it, and how the coin flip would work out, it'll change up who they're playing next year and creates a much more difficult schedule for them in certain ways. So there's no way for every team to be taken care of and have the same expected advantages they were supposed to have. This one, especially for the neutral site games, I guess it mitigates a competitive disadvantage or advantage or any sort of unfairness. It makes it a little bit of a pain for both teams. Now, we did have players coming out, and Zach Taylor for the Bengals saying, like, hey, the NFL has rules in place. Why aren't we following these rules? And looking into it a little bit more, it does kind of seem weird that the NFL didn't follow some of their previously set in place rules for this.
Yeah.
Which I'll bring up the tweet here that Mixon had. This is part of his tweet, at least. Let's see here if I can get this up on my other screen as well. So this is straight out NFL rule book. If a game is canceled, the team's standings in its division or in its conference, e.g. the qualification as a wild card in the playoffs or position in the playoff seeding, shall be determined on a basis of its final record. When necessary, playoff tiebreakers shall be calculated according to per game average for all teams. So that's going back to the win percentage. This would make it seem that because the NFL has decided that it's a no contest, the game doesn't count. So it goes to win percentage versus record, how many games you've played. There's stuff in the rule book that kind of talks about what happens if these games aren't played and how to equate it to playoff seeding. And they've kind of scrapped that and gone with this commissioner's authority part to take appropriate actions and things like that. So I get where the Bengals are coming from. They are not gaining any of the benefits that they would have gained had they won this game this last week.
Mm-hmm.
They are only getting the negative outcomes from it for the most part. And it does make me kind of question why the NFL didn't kind of follow that stuff. It's an unprecedented situation. Of course, that hindsight will be 2020 looking back at this, but I feel for the Bengals fans. It sucks. You definitely will feel like you're getting screwed. And there's also going to be a narrative.
They don't have a chance to be the number one seed now.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no scenario on the thing that we just had where they can be the number one seed.
Yep.
However, if they go out, they beat Buffalo this last week, they have an outside chance that they could be the number one seed with a Kansas City loss to the Raiders and another win this week. So, yeah, Cincinnati's in a tough spot, and Joe Mixon is I get where he's coming from. I 100% too. All of that pales in the comparison to Damar Hamlin, but now you have to go out and play these games. So you want your team to be in the best position to go out there and have a chance to succeed and go and win a Super Bowl. I understand where he's coming from 100%.
Yeah. And if we're talking about the NFL being rigged right now as well, you kind of think you're going to see a Buffalo-Cincinnati championship game, and you're probably going to see Buffalo go to the Super Bowl and win if the NFL's rigged.
I did say that that's kind of what I thought. We were going to see a Cincinnati-Buffalo AFC championship game. I think both of those teams can beat Kansas City. We've already seen Cincinnati do it. I believe we saw Buffalo do it as well.
Yes.
So that's who I had pegged for the AFC Championship game. There's a good possibility that happens.
NFL likes lines, so all conspiracy theorists out there, we're calling it now.
Yeah,
I think we're calling it now.
Yeah, But all right, man. Now that we got that, do you want to start rolling into some of these games? We got 2 games today, and then the rest of the slate tomorrow.
Yeah, let's do it. I might be breaking up some. I
Yeah,
don't
you
know.
are a
I'm
little
getting
bit.
your Wi-Fi bars.
Yeah, your Wi-Fi bars are telling you the truth. You are absolutely breaking up right now. But let me go ahead, pull these up, and then I'll get us started. Yeah, she gone. All right, guys. So we got 2 games today. Our first game is going to be a big game when it comes to all of these playoff seedings. Why is this showing up in the wrong thing? Nope. Let's go to that. All right. So game 1 for the day, we got the Kansas City Chiefs at the Las Vegas Raiders. This is a game that obviously we just talked about. It's going to have massive playoff implications. There's going to be some implications here as it comes to coaching and the line for this game. Let me get down to it. We got Kansas City -9 over under a 52.5. Weather obviously will not be a factor in this game as they are playing in Vegas. And this is a game that Kansas City should absolutely win. Vegas is not playing for anything at this point. Kansas City is playing to lock up that number 1 spot in the AFC. They want home field advantage. It is very tough to go into Arrowhead at any time of the year, especially towards this time of the year when it is cold, it is windy, those fans are loud, and it is going to be an absolutely raucous environment once they get going. Kansas City is the far superior team. They are not nearly as explosive on offense without Tyreek Hill, but they are more multiple. They are more dynamic because they have found a bunch of different guys that can do a lot of different things and kind of recreate what Tyreek Hill does. I fully expect Kansas City to win this game. I don't know if they can cover, and that's tough because you guys saw what happens when you take Kansas City on the money line. You don't win any fucking money. I won $1.22. The money line here -455 for Kansas City. Once again, you're not going to be making much of any fucking money on this game. But I don't trust Kansas City to cover, especially when we're talking about these almost double-digit numbers. Eva, it looks like you're back. What do you got on this Kansas City game?
Yeah, so Kansas City still has plenty to play for. They want to keep securing that 1 seed. Depending on if they were to lose and Buffalo were to win this week, Buffalo could still get that 1 seed. So the Chiefs have plenty to play for. The Raiders, however, do not. They're playing their backup in Stidham. The difference is that Stidham looked pretty damn solid. You know, between Stidham and Brock Purdy, we got our next Manning Brady situation going, right? So Stidham looked pretty damn good. I was a little bit surprised by that. I know that when he played with New England, there was a lot of talks of him being the starter there before they drafted Mac Jones and have the Cam Newton and everything going on, and they really liked what they saw out of Stidham. And so I'm not completely surprised by it, but you just didn't really expect him to have that good of a game with his first start there with the Raiders. The Raiders still don't have a whole lot to play for. I don't know that they're going to continue just playing all their starters for the rest of the game without much to play for. You got to assume that the fringe players are the ones that are definitely going to be playing their ass off because they want to make an impression. Your guys like Devontae and stuff, not saying that Devontae would take a day off, but those guys don't have a ton to play for. It's starting to look towards next year.
Yep.
So with that being said, like you brought up, Kansas City does not like to cover. They have played some teams a la the Houston Texans very close recently. I fully expect Kansas City to get the win. I'm not betting this game. I don't know if you're doing the same thing this week where you're going to put money in every single.
No, I did that for the first week in Ohio. I'm not doing that again. That will not be played. I do have a bet on this game, but not money line, no covers. I got Pat Mahomes throwing for 300 yards because the Raiders are not very good.
Yeah.
Now I'm very leery of this bet because if Kansas City gets up by a good margin, there is a high probability that they could sit guys and give them a little extra rest, even though with a win, they basically lock up the the number one seed. So they're
Yeah.
gonna have a week of rest anyways. So I'm hoping that Pat Mahomes goes out, balls out early, gets his 300 yards. I fully expect him to win, but I'm not betting the money line or the spread on this one. Now we're gonna give you guys our picks on what you would do, what we would do if we were gonna bet this, but I am not gonna bet it.
Yeah,
So
if you're to bet this game, I would bet money line, and I would add it into a part of a parlay where it's an add-on there. You can kind of feel good about it. But if you're betting just one game, I wouldn't put a money line bet on the Chiefs because your odds are just not the return
not
on
worth the money.
investment there is not worth it.
The
But
squeeze
yeah,
isn't worth the juice.
Chiefs money line for me all day on this one. I fully expect them to fight to maintain that one seed. Much better team than the Raiders. The scary part, like you said, is they might start sitting their guys towards the end, which allows that backdoor cover by the Raiders. And it could kind of screw with some of your individual player bets and stuff like that if you have them going. So this is always end of the season, especially with these teams that are guaranteed a playoff slot. It messes with fantasy football type playoffs. It messes with betting, gambling, stuff like that. So Chiefs money line for me, and I believe you're going the same route.
Yeah, Chiefs money line for me as well. And by the way, if you guys are doing your fantasy football championship in week 18, you deserve all of the bad things that happened to your team this week when they pull the players. Who the fuck plays their championship game on the last week of the season?
Like 18 team leagues.
Fucking asinine. If you ever decide that, you know what, I'm going to start up a fantasy football league and I'm going to invite my buddies. Do not put your fucking championship game the last week of the season. It is the week before when everybody is still playing really hard to try to determine seeding. That's what the fuck you do.
Yep.
All right. I'm going to get off of that now.
No worries. All right. Next up, we've got the Titans and the Jaguars in what should be possibly a pretty good game. Jaguars are arguably one of the best teams in football the past couple weeks.
Right,
they've been playing. The line is Jacksonville -6.5, over under of 40. The Titans are out. Jacksonville is in, essentially. I mean, technically the Titans can win this, and it'll tie up the record, but Jacksonville still ends up getting the AFC South, I believe.
Yeah, I believe that they are going to have a better division record, so that will give them the.
Actually, no, they're both 3-2 in the division. So,
so we are playing for division title here.
Yeah, I like Jacksonville in this game. I do.
Me too.
6.5 points, though. That's a tough spread for me because Vrabel and those Titans, now they are playing backup quarterback. I don't think Malik Willis isn't playing this week. I don't think.
He is not. Malik Willis is not playing.
Yeah.
They're playing Josh Dobbs again.
Yeah. Who did surprisingly well. But
he's a capable backup.
It's a Derrick Henry team, right? Versus the Jags, who've just been fucking rolling. I want to see the Jags make it to the playoffs. I really do. This is being played in Jacksonville. Right now, AccuWeather is showing possibly a little bit of rain, 64 degrees, something like that. So weather might play a little bit of an impact, especially if it starts getting rainy out there. That's when Derrick Henry could potentially take over. But for me, I'm taking Jacksonville to win this game. I'm taking the money line because with it being a divisional game, with it being such a high stakes game, I expect the Titans to put their all on the line, and Vrabel usually will get his guys ready to go in these sorts of situations. The Titans have in many, and losing 6.
Yep, Evo, you are breaking up again. But I heard Jacksonville on the money line there, so I'm going to mark that down for you. And I know in my heart of hearts that Jacksonville is going to make the playoffs and Trevor Lawrence is going to start to ascend into the conversation of best quarterbacks in the league, because he's just been incredibly special. One of the best quarterbacks under the age of fucking 25 or 20, whatever the fuck, however old he is now. He's an absolute stud. I have toyed around with the idea, though, of going Titans plus the points because this is a divisional game, because there's such high stakes in this game that I feel like Tennessee could keep this close. And then I remember who's playing quarterback for the Titans this week. Josh Dobbs, we talked about it last week, is a very capable backup. He's not a high-tier backup. He's a mid-tier backup. Smart guy, can go out there and play some football every once in a while, but is not going to wow you or be special to win you a game. I cannot see Jacksonville running away with this thing. I mean, they balled out last year at the end of the year. Were able to knock the Colts out. I'm going to go Jags, and I'm going to go money line. This could be a closer game, and if you guys go Titans plus the points, I would understand that because the Titans are a team that is pretty good. Vrabel knows how to get those guys motivated and go out there and play hard, especially when it absolutely matters the most. But I'm going to go ahead and ride with Jags, Trevor Lawrence, and the hot hand, and I'm going to take the Jags on the money line.
All right. I don't know how well you can hear me, but I'm going to let you continue forward with the next games.
All right. So I can hear you. Your video is a little grainy, but it's all right. It's a podcast, right? We can hear you, so we're good.
All righty.
All right.
So how long that lasts.
Yeah. All right. So moving on into this Sunday games. First game up that I got here. We got the Buccaneers at the Falcons. The Falcons are favored in this game, -4. And I can only assume, I have not seen too many reports, that the reason that the Falcons are favored is because the Bucs are in the playoffs. They've won their division. I would imagine that they're going to be sitting quite a few of their starters. Evo, do you have any information on who is in, who's out for this Bucs team, and why the Falcons are favored in this game with a very low over-under of 40 points?
I believe it is a situation where we're going to have a whole bunch of players sitting for the Buccaneers. I mean, they're an aging team. Like Tom Brady is aging. I don't see anything here too specific other than they're probably sitting players that they got nothing to play for at this point. Their seeding isn't going to change. So you can expect if starters go out there, they're not going to be out there too long. And that's got to be playing into this line here, at least a little bit.
And Vegas is very, very good. They're very smart. They're very in tune. And they probably have some people inside of organizations who maybe get a little information, and that's how these lines come out. Or they're just savants and they're able to guess with over a fucking 75% accuracy what's going to happen in most of these games. So I would be willing to bet that the Bucs are not going to play the majority of their guys. And if they do play, it'll be for a couple series just to make sure that they stay fresh, avoid injury, and then we'll see the backups come into this game. So this makes this game much harder to call if you're betting. Do I think the Bucs are a better team? Yes.
Substantially, though?
Not substantially better. No, not
and
at all.
That's with the starters out there.
And that's with the starters out there. I think that this game is irrelevant to them, and they're not going to really care the way this goes. It's hard to go and bet the Falcons in this game, though, because they're not great either. We've seen some good things out of Ritter. We have not seen a lot of great things. I think he is still very much in the learning process of understanding what the NFL is. So to take them on the money line it's tough because the odds are -195. To take the spread -110 and give up 4 points is even tougher because there are no reports that the Bucs are sitting people. At least not that I've seen, and not that you've seen, right?
Nothing explicit, no.
Yeah. So this is a tough game to call. I'm
Falcons money if I have to take
I think that's the parlay. I think that's the safest bet is the Falcons on the money line. So I'm going to go Falcons with you on the money line there. All right, Falcons money line for both of us. It looks like you are broken up again, so I'm going to lead us into our next game. Next game, big game, very important for both of these teams. we got the Bills and the Patriots. They're playing up in Buffalo. Right now, spread -7 for Buffalo, over under a 43.5. And this is a game that I am very confident in betting. I actually have a large wager on this game, and it is Buffalo to cover. We talked about DeMar Hamlin and how that affected that team. The fact that DeMar Hamlin was able to get on a Zoom call, was it yesterday, maybe 2 days ago, and talk to his guys, and now they know that he is okay. Things are progressing in the right direction. That is going to give a massive boost to this Bills team, who is playing for a lot. They have the potential to take down their arch rivals in the Patriots and knock them out of playoffs contention, because they are not locked into a spot. I think that the Bills go out there, they put on a performance that we have not seen in quite some time. They're going to roll through the Patriots. I'm going Buffalo -7, and I had $100 on that fact because DeMar is doing better. They are going to be hugely uplifted by that fact, and they are going to steamroll this Patriots team that has not been great all year, has been lucky in some games, and has found ways to win to still keep them in it, but that will not be happening this week. I don't think that we see an emotional letdown from this Bills team. I think we see an uplift because of the positive news we've heard about DeMar.
Okay. And that all makes sense to me. I do think that the Patriots are going to try to play them tough and play them close. I want to see the Bills roll them, absolutely, and it very much could happen. I think the Bills could get to that point where they get out to a big lead and start to pull players as well. Again, they have tons to play for, trying to get that 1 seed still. But this is a Sunday game. They will have known what happens with Kansas City.
Yep.
And I still think it's a smart play. They're not going to lose the 2 seed. So,
well, they could lose the 2 seed if they lose and Cincinnati wins.
That's true. I think that they're obviously going to go for the win, but they have the opportunity to pull players as well. And that, to me, makes it more difficult to take that spread. Just because if they see Kansas City wins, they know they can't get the 1 seed. All right, let's get out to a lead, pull players. I mean, obviously that is best case scenario, where teams this year don't seem to be able to just get way the hell ahead. So if they do get a 2 to 3 score lead halftime, you can expect players to get pulled. That allows that backdoor cover to come in. I'm going to be just taking the Bills money line on this one. A lot of safe bets this week for me, just because it is such a funky week in the NFL. You have funky at the beginning, funky at the end, because we already know kind of what the playoffs are shaping out to be, and teams start to prepare for that. The Bills, if they cannot get that 1 seed, I think they're going to do what they can to rest their players and get a sort of bye week for some of their guys as much as they can, and that will allow the possibility for that backdoor cover. So I'm going to be taking the money line.
Okay.
All right, the next game up, we've got the big one there, the Ravens and the Bengals. All right.
Yeah.
Line is Cincinnati -9 on this one. Cincinnati's a better team. I still don't think Lamar is playing. They've got no need to play him at this point. The
Bengals have a ton to play for, though. The Bengals have a shitload to play for. They're going to play their guys, I think, the whole way. Even if they get out to a big lead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's all these different scenarios and stuff like that. As far as a coin flip, it does get kind of put in the Bengals' hands at that point, where if they go out and then win the game, it makes a big difference. So I think they are going to play their asses off. 9 points is still a lot, but I expect them actually to cover this one, because I don't think they're going to be pulling guys. I think that they are a much better team than the Ravens right now, despite the Ravens going to be in the playoffs. The Ravens know that they don't have a chance really at getting the division that is locked up for the Bengals at this point. So they can afford to rest guys if they want to. and I kind of see this one getting a little bit out of hand. I think the Bengals feel like they've been slighted, and they're going to be playing with that on their side, that chip. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Bengals minus 9 points. That is a lot. I don't like taking spreads that much between two teams. The Ravens are a decent team. They just are so beat up at this point that it doesn't really match. So, and we're talking about a loss to by Cincy versus the Ravens much earlier in the season when they were still kind of finding their footing for the Bengals. So Bengals are a much better team at this point.
Yeah, Lamar was playing actually really well when they played the last time. So, I'm going Bengals minus 9 as well, man. I would expect that they play everybody the entire time. They want to bury this team. They're going to fucking prove that we are better than them, that there shouldn't be any coin toss. I think I might bet the minus 9. I'll actually bet it rather than just giving the pick. But bet that I do really like this week, or I don't know if I like it as much as I want it to happen. I want to see a T. Higgins anytime touchdown. I really badly want to see a T. Higgins anytime touchdown. Get him in the end zone. Let him have his moment, and just kind of be thankful that DeMar and did his pulling through this, and that, this is a game. So that's good. And I also kind of like Joe Mixon after his comments this week to kind of go off.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense there. That Bengals team definitely has that chip on their shoulder. I mean, they've been looked at as an underdog for the past couple years.
2 years, yeah.
And it feels like the NFL is against them. And so I saw a lot of, you're going to see this from the fan base when this stuff comes out there. The NFL is rigged. They're out to get us, blah, blah, blah. We hear, like, I've said it before. You've probably said it before.
Oh, yeah.
Many people have said it before. They're going to feel that as a fan base. And realistically, the Bengals, that's Zach Taylor should be out there telling his team that, like, hey, they're out to get us, so let's fucking prove them wrong. Go, like Major League out here, and we're gonna show them who's boss. So
yeah, my father-in-law, love the man to death. He's a great guy, but he is a big ref screwed us guy. Yeah. Every fan base has it. It's not just your fan base. Like when you get tired of hearing your fan base say, "Oh, it's us versus the refs." Every fucking fan base says this when you get a call that doesn't go your way.
Yeah. All right. Next up here, we've got the Texans and the Colts in a toilet bowl. But there's relatively big implications here as far as seeding for draft picks. This is a Colts team that looks absolutely atrocious. We all know that. But this is a Texans team that has an absolutely atrocious record and has just played their tits off the past couple weeks. So, and despite that, still haven't gotten the wins. I like the Texans in this one. The line is Indianapolis minus 2.5, and I'm taking the Texans plus the points on this one because I feel like the way that they've been playing these teams at the end of the year, you've got the Colts going out there with Sam Ehlinger. I like Ehlinger as a backup. I don't think that he's a starter necessarily.
I like his ability with his legs. I don't love his arms so much or the decision making, but I like what he can do outside of that. So that is a little bit of a boost.
Yeah. But I like the way the Texans have been playing these good teams, and they've been playing them hard and close. So I'm going to say the Texans, they still have that going on in this game, except for they're going up against a much worse team. I mean, it's another one of those games that could be an anomaly game, but at the end of the day, you're talking about two really bad teams. So it is closer to a coin flip in that respect. Because the Texans, if they just lose this game, they for sure have the 1 seed. The first pick. So it would make sense for them to just go ahead and fucking drop this one, and no one will bat an eye.
No. They're going to play themselves right out of that number 1 pick.
It's very possible.
They've been trying to do it for weeks, and this is the week that they do it. They're going to win. I'm taking them to fucking win this game. I'm not even taking the points. They're going to win this fucking game. They're playing so much better than the Colts.
I think that they will, and that's the thing is we're not talking about the Colts possibly getting the 1 seed. We're talking about the Bears. Now, the Bears, they're playing my Vikings this week, and we'll get into that. But the Bears are 3-13. They're the only team that's 3-13 right now. If the Texans win and the Bears lose, that puts them in a tie record, and then I don't know how that works out, except for the fact that the Texans have a tie, and that puts them as the number 2 pick.
Yeah, they would be a little bit just
so the Bears could walk themselves into the number 1 overall pick here, which is great for a year when you need a quarterback.
However, I think you got a guy.
They probably have to ride with Justin Fields at this point, so they might be able to get a king's ransom for that number 1 overall pick and trading it away to someone who's desperate for a quarterback. Or all those teams that are in those top, 5 to 6 picks know, like, oh, we need quarterbacks too. We can just sit and wait because the Bears aren't going to take anything and we're not going to pay out the ass.
Well, the Texans won't move up. Somebody could try to jump the Texans to get their guy, though. And I think the Bears would love that, especially since they're in absolute fucking rebuild mode. Yeah. I expect the Texans to win this game. They've been trying to play out of that number 1 overall pick for a while. This is the week they get it done. And that I believe the Bears will fall this week and then also get into that number 1 pick. I'm taking the Texans, not taking plus the points. I'm taking them outright to win the odds on the Texans. Plus 118. So plus odds I like, especially when I feel good about their chances, because the Colts are just really fucking bad. Jeff Saturday is not he's not an NFL coach. They don't have weapons. They're on to a 3rd quarterback. Even though we like some things that he can do, he's just not the guy. So yeah, Texans for me.
Yeah, I'll take the points. Why not? I'm not betting the game. I do have a couple bets out, a couple parlays, and I don't remember if I added them in or not, but it's in there.
It was plus 2.5, yes?
Yes. That is correct. All right. Just so you guys know, I'm a little bit delayed on some of the stuff I'm doing here because I'm working halfway off my phone. I'm trying to take any strain that could possibly happen off the internet here.
Yeah, I gotcha.
No idea what's going on there. But our next game up, we have the Jets and the Dolphins being played in Miami, I believe. This game is Miami -3 for the line right now. And we have a Jets team being led by Joe Flacco, a Dolphins team being led by Skylar Thompson. Both teams are out. So it makes it.
Are they out? Both of them are out?
Yes.
Oh, I thought Miami had a chance.
Let me pull up real quick the standings. I can't have multiple screens going. Hold
on, I got it.
Buffalo's locked in. Let's see, conference. I guess technically Miami has a chance to make it. Technically Pittsburgh has a chance to make it, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, they need some fucking help, but.
Yeah. Well, the Jets are for sure eliminated.
Well, that's what they get for fucking starting Zach Wilson.
Yeah. But they're not doing it this week.
Yeah.
So get old Joe Flacco going out there.
Patriots right now are in.
I don't know. It doesn't show these guys. Jacksonville, New England, Miami, Pittsburgh, and Tennessee all have a chance to wrap up those last 2 slots. So
if the Patriots win, they're in. If Miami wants to get in, they need a win and a New England loss, which I think is likely. The Jets are eliminated. The Steelers have a chance. They need to win, and they need losses from Miami and New England. Yeah, and that's about it. And then we got the Titans and Jags. Whoever wins that fucking game is the champ.
All right. Oh, fuck. I'm sorry.
No, I get it, man. I'm tired too. So the Dolphins still have a chance. I think the fact that they are still playing for a playoff opportunity lends themselves pretty well, but we have seen this team really struggle when Tua's not fucking playing. I like Skylar Thompson. I like where he can get to, but he's not there yet. Joe Flacco is a veteran. This is a very well-coached Jets defense. We've seen Joe Flacco go out and win games this year that he shouldn't fucking win, namely against the Browns. So this makes it kind of tough for me to call. I think that Mike McDaniels will figure out a way to attack that Robert Salah defense. They were together out in San Francisco. They know each other. I'm going to take Miami on the money line. I no thought about a cover here just because the quarterback play, we have no idea what we're going to get.
I'm going to take the Miami Dolphins minus the 3 points. Fuck it. Because I was a big Skylar Thompson fan. I liked what I saw, honestly, from him when they played the Vikings. Again, he was playing the Vikings secondary. They make everyone look good. But I liked what I saw out of him. And with the Jets not having as much to play for, obviously being eliminated, Joe Flacco can go out there and he could run that offense. I would have liked to have seen a Mike White or even a Strevler go out there to see a little bit more what he's got, because you know what you got in Flacco. You got a guy that's going to have to retired. He's going to have to retire here pretty fucking soon.
Yeah.
Put out Strevler or Mike White, make it a little bit more fun for the fan base and a little bit more interesting. I do like Skylar Thompson. I like what I saw out of him in the preseason. I like what I saw out of him in college. I like what I saw of him in his one game where he started versus the Vikings. Do I think it's going to be a big blowout? It's over under at 37 points right now. No, I don't, because Jets have a good defense. Miami has a good offense when Tua is out there playing. You're not going to see that same sort of production out of the offense. So you could be looking at an under here. But I'm going to go ahead and take Miami minus the 3 points just because I'm feeling a little ballsy with that one. Fuck it. Why not?
All right.
I do think Miami will win this game and get themselves into the playoffs, because I do think New England will lose their game.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we've got the Panthers and the Saints being played in New Orleans. Could this be the end of Sam Darnold in Carolina? Could this be the end of Andy Dalton in New Orleans? Are we going to have a coaching switch up out there? It's going to be a wild offseason. We're looking at potentially like 7 teams looking for new head coaches. Which is going to be a lot of fun.
Black Monday is going to be fucking brutal.
Say what you will about this NFL season. It has been one of the more exciting ones, I feel like, as far as storylines, the way teams have played, the way teams have underperformed, overperformed.
Parity.
You've got a pretty interesting draft class coming out. You've got a lot of veteran players that we could be seeing turned over. I mean, Russell Wilson should just go fucking die. Excuse me. That's not actually die, but
don't do that after this week.
Aaron Rodgers should go out there and fucking die. I'll stick with that one. He's dating the Bucks owner's daughter, who's like 23 years old, fucking robbing the cradle.
Hey, let him do his thing, bro.
No, fuck that guy. But Rodgers should be out. Brady should be out. Russell should be out. We should be seeing a new crop of quarterbacks come in. That would be great. Probably not going to play out that way. It's just going to be a wild offseason. I can't wait for it. Either way, back to this game. The line is New Orleans minus 3.5 being played at home for New Orleans. Over under at 42 points. And again, I just don't know how to fucking call this game, man. I mean, I guess the Saints are a better defense, but the Panthers might be a better team overall, and they're both not very good.
I think this is Steve Wilkes' last chance to stick it to the ownership and fuck up their draft a little bit more. The Saints have not been good. Alvin Kamara has been abysmal this year. He's not been great. The offensive line's tough. Their defense is really good, though. They have been really good. Sam Darnold is what Sam Darnold is. We know exactly what he is. We've known for quite some time. But they just find ways to play up. They had a chance to fucking win the division up to last week. I think they are playing better football right now. I'm going to go with the Panthers, but I am going to take the points. I'm going to take plus 3.5 for the Panthers there.
Yeah, I'll take the 3.5 for the Panthers as well. I feel decent about that. I like taking the points. Oh, my girl just texted me. She's like, you can't say shit about robbing the cradle. Well,
I say she's a little younger than you are.
She's a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. Look, I can't help it that I like fine fucking young women. She's gorgeous. That's what I go for. I don't know, but I'm also not a professional athlete. I'm just a decent guy who goes after decent women.
That was a very nice little sentiment.
Anyways, yeah, I'll take the Panthers plus the points. Why not? Man, some of these games are just such toss-ups for me.
Yeah. This is a good week for same game parlays, or just maybe a normal parlay. A couple teams you feel really good about, just on the money line. This is a tough week to make a lot of money.
Yeah. Though it's like I did go out there and Fuck you, Joe. I did make some bets this week already, so I feel all right about it.
I got a couple, but the only game that I have, this straight game bet that I got, is the Bills -7. That's the only straight game bet I got. I got an awesome boost because I live in Ohio. New state special. I just need 1 point to be scored in the Ravens and Bengals game, and $50 turns into 100. And then I got Pat Mahomes because I think they're going to play those guys for a while, but we'll see. That one could come back and bite me.
God, I'm getting shit through text messages right now.
There we go.
Next game, we've got the Chargers and the Broncos being played in Denver.
What the hell did Amber put into the comment section there?
Face purple crying. I don't know. I'm fucking this one up. I just need to shut up. The line is Denver -3 points, over under of 40. Chargers are a much better team than the Broncos. Chargers are in the playoffs. They're probably going to be seeking players. That's why you're seeing Denver being the favorite here, which blew me the fuck away. I still did bet on this one.
Oh, wow. Chargers?
I'm taking the Chargers.
Plus the points.
I think I'm taking Chargers plus the points, but I'm not positive. Because Denver, goddamn, they fucking suck.
Talk yourself into the money line right now. Let's go. Talk yourself into the money line.
Oh, for the pod,
for the Chargers.
For the pod, I'll take the Chargers money line. Yeah, that's perfectly fine with me. I think that the Chargers backups are still better than the Broncos starters at this point. They're just a dysfunctional team. Russell Wilson is a poo-poo. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. It's even with it being played in Denver, and Chargers are probably going to be seeing plenty of their guys. You know, you're probably not going to be seeing Eckler out there. You're probably not going to be seeing Herbert out there. You need to rest your Mike Williams types and your Keenan Allen types because they've had injury stuff early in the season. That dramatically cuts down the Chargers offense. That being said, some of their backups have seen a lot of play this season, which means that they're pretty used to being out there as starters so far this year, you know, especially with the wide receiver positions early in the year. So those guys should be able to perform even if they're going out there with the backup. I'm not sure who the Chargers backup is off the top of my head.
Let me see if I
can. At quarterback, we've got Chase Daniel. Feel good about that. All right.
Okay.
Or Easton Stick. I still feel good about that too. So going out there against Russ, who ain't cooking. Yeah, I'll take Chargers money line on this one. I don't remember what the bet is that I made if I put them on their Chargers plus the points or not. Either way, I feel good about the Chargers in this one versus the Broncos, who are just kind of broken, dysfunctional team here.
Yeah. I don't know. So we talked about it before. Like when you fire a coach, you can get an uplift. I don't feel like that is the feel inside that locker room for the Broncos at all. Now, obviously, Hackett was terrible, but I don't think that they're like, oh, yeah, all we need to do is get rid of him, and then this team will be ascending because they have a lot of other issues, specifically at the quarterback position. So I don't think that there's this big boost by letting Hackett go, and then you hire or you make the interim head coach, the guy that Hackett hired, who was to help with game management, but I don't think he's had too much coaching experience at the NFL level, other than maybe like a couple position coach spots. So it's weird to me that they would make that decision and there's not going to be a boost. I am going to go with Chargers on the money line as well because I cannot, in good conscience, bet the Broncos for anything, even though they just fired the coach.
Yeah. Look, I'll be as transparent as I can here. The Broncos were extremely surprising to me last week. They played the Chiefs. Obviously, we know the Chiefs are pretty much up there for the 1 seed. Broncos were winning most of the game. Chiefs came back at the end and ended up getting the win 27-24. That's the Chiefs for you, though. They don't cover, and they've been playing some of these bad teams
down
pretty close. They definitely play to their opponent. As a Chiefs fan, and I mean, I get the same thing as a Vikings fan. We've just been playing every team that we play close unless we're going to take a loss. And that's how our playoffs is going to be. Either we're going to win the Super Bowl in extreme dramatic fashion or we're going to lose on the wild card by about 50 points. So it's the Chiefs like to play to their opponents, which led, I believe, to this being a much closer game last week than it should have been. because like Russell Wilson is still washed up from what I saw in that game, despite having some better stats. At the end of the day, I feel like the Broncos shouldn't even play in Russ in this one. I don't know if they will. They probably will because they're dysfunctional. Put Ripien out there, let some of these other guys get some playing time. Secure a better draft pick for the team that you traded it off to, I guess. I don't know. That Chargers for me.
Yeah, me too.
All right, next up we have the Giants and the Eagles being played in Philly. The line is Philly minus 14.5, over under a 14-3. Huge spread here, but the Giants have already come out and said that they're resting players. They're trying to get rested and ready to go versus my Vikings more than likely in the wild card round. I believe it's 94% chance right now that is your wild card matchup there in the NFC, Vikings and Giants at Minnesota. On the other hand, the Eagles are still playing their guys because now the 1 seed is in question for them. If Dallas wins, Philly loses, Dallas gets the 1 seed, and Eagles immediately become a wild card team, which is fucking crazy to think about since they were one of the best teams record-wise in the league this year. So the Eagles definitely have to go out there and play their guys. But again, this is going to be one of those situations where the Giants are sitting there, dudes. They already have a very untalented roster, despite their record and how they play this year. Their roster is not great, and they've overcome that. But if you're putting out the backups to guys who already could almost be considered backups on a lot of teams, you're going to expect a dramatic drop off there. The difference is Philly's going to go out. They're going to go and get ahead pretty early in this game, and then they're probably going to have to consider sitting their guys like a Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, we're going to – well, is Jalen Hurts playing in this game or is Minshew getting in?
I believe Jalen's expected to play. Either way, I still feel comfortable with Minshew going out there and performing well. I just don't know what the
Minshew is one of the reasons that they're in this situation that they could potentially lose a number 1 spot.
Yeah, for sure. But they also Minshew looked great against like Dallas. They took that game down to the wire with Dallas. Yeah. He's a guy that we think that given the right situation, the right preparation time and stuff like that, he could be a fringe starter or a mid-level starter in the league. I'm not backing off of that.
No, I'm not either.
At this point, sure, some finger pointing has to go towards Minshew, but also you're talking about a team that is trying to kind of coast here into the 1 seed at the end of the playoffs. I understand it. Injuries have been a lot of their issues towards the end of the year. So let's go ahead and get healthy. They still need to keep that mindset to an extent. That's the 14.5 points to me is too much in this one. If this game was being played 5 weeks ago or more, I might consider the 14.5 points.
If Jalen's in, yeah.
It wouldn't be a 14.5 point spread, though, at that point either. It would probably be closer to like a 9 or a 10 point, and I still would probably consider that.
Yeah. I think the fact that Gardner went in, played okay, but they lost, elevates Jalen Hurts even more in that MVP conversation. I don't think he's going to get it because he's missed, 3 games now. That's too many games to miss to win an MVP, but it really speaks to how good he has been this year that the drop off, it was enough that they're losing games that they could have won and should have won. So I'm glad that Jalen's back out there. He's going to need a little bit of time to get reacclimated, get him some game reps, probably play the first half. But when the backups come in, the backups for the Eagles are better than the backups for the Giants. We're going to end up seeing probably a fucking preseason type game towards the end here where it's just a bunch of dudes that you don't fucking know or have not had a ton of snaps this year. Yeah. I can't take 14.5 though. Eagles, money line, easy.
Good. All right, next up we have the Cardinals and the 49ers being played in California. The line is San Francisco, also minus 14.5 at this point, over under of 39.5. So expected to be a relatively low scoring game, but just a gigantic spread. Makes sense because the Cardinals are rolling out there again with, I believe, the third stringer guy practice squad that they brought over from Minnesota via
David Blau.
Detroit. Yep, the Blau monster. Cardinals also just kind of in dysfunction right now. Another one of those teams where you could very well see a new head coach, new GM. reading an ESPN article going over the best possible landing scenarios for certain coaches. Cardinals are kind of up there because you do have a quarterback in Kyler Murray if you think you can do something with him, and you could come in there as a coach and get that czar role where you are both head coach and GM. Possibly Kime could be out and Kingsbury could be out.
All right,
So
we got a call coming in here.
oh shit.
Joe Rockstar.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail.
Send him a voicemail.
Joe Rockstar, you are on with the Lineman Lounge. What's going on, brother?
What's up, guys?
Oh, fucking hanging out on an early Saturday morning.
Thought I saw the bat signal to call in.
Oh, you did. We were talking about your Niners right now.
Oh, the bat wing. I can show him the bat wing. We're gonna get demonetized and cut off YouTube real quick.
Show me the bat wing. I dare you. You want some more?
Don't fucking do it.
Text messages. Take it out. All right, guys. I gotta apologize for the points last week, for the hangover that my defense had. That kid played good, Stidham. It wasn't bad.
Yeah, I think that it surprised everybody that how well Stidham played in that game.
Well, interesting thing that probably a lot of people don't know about me is I like to watch the all 22s. And if you watch the all 22s, the Niners were really breaking down on coverage and it was bad. It was awful. I mean, they're playing like banjo, and then it's obvious that they're in to play banjo, and guys aren't taking their assignment right, making the right heroes. And I think they just underestimated the Raiders, or maybe a little hangover from New Year's. I don't know. But I apologize for the points. I was wrong.
It's all right, man. That's going to happen when we're talking about gambling. You can't win them all, because if you did, I'd bet every single fucking game.
But I think we can be pretty confident that the game is going to be a win this week, no matter what.
Yeah,
I don't know about points this time.
There's no doubt in my mind that the Niners are going to win this game. But the spread is 14.5. That's going to be a little too rich for my blood. Evo, I'm assuming you're thinking the same thing. Now we're just kind of getting into it. The Cardinals are kind of in dysfunction. We don't know what's going to happen with that organization, especially at the head coaching spot going into next year. But 14.5 is a lot. I mean, the Niners are still kind of playing for playoff seeding a little bit, but I would imagine we're not going to see all of our studs, our horses, the entire game here.
And I think the seeding stuff, it would require the Vikings to win and the 49ers to lose in order for the Vikings to somehow get back in the 2 seed, but I don't even think that's an option right now. I'm not positive, but I've already kind of considered the 49ers to be the 2 seed, Vikings to be the 3 seed at this point. And then a little bit to get back to that previous game, Joe was talking about banjo coverage there. It's basically a defensive concept where players are allowed to switch off from as an offensive player transitions through their zone. They're able to switch off. It allows the defensive players not to get picked into a play. It's a little bit more deeper football knowledge stuff for those of you that might not understand it. I can understand the 49ers defense coming up and having some of those issues because you're going against Stidham, a guy that you don't really have tape on. You don't really know what to expect. So their game preparation could have very much so been flawed in how they're going to prepare for this guy because you don't know what you're getting into. So I'm willing to give a little bit of leeway there to their defense, which is normally just outstanding against anyone that they play. It's a very, very tough when you're going up against a team or specifically a quarterback where you just don't know what to expect. So that there is allowance for some hiccups there in general. But yeah, when it comes down to this game, 14.5 points is just too much for me. I'm taking San Francisco money line on this one all day. 49ers are a better team. I don't think that there's any way that they lose this one. They aren't going to be sitting their guys, or I wouldn't expect them to unless they get out to that big lead. But we can say that about a lot of these games this week is if they start to get out to a big lead, yeah, go ahead and start rotating in backups and sitting some of your starters like Christian McCaffrey and stuff who are known for being a little bit more injury prone. Might as well get them a little bit more rest because you're not
getting the ball,
having a chance for the 1 seed.
Yeah, interesting facts about the game. You've got Eli Mitchell coming back. He practiced this week. Debo's going to be there. So that changes things a little bit. So I think, if they get a good lead, those guys are all sitting.
Yeah, I mean, you'll sit Debo, you'll sit CMC, Elijah Mitchell will get the bulk of the carries. We'll still continue to see Brock Purdy because you guys don't
Elijah
have.
Mitchell will go out again with an injury, but he'll play some.
Yeah.
I think he will, especially if we get down. We're playing at the same time that Philadelphia is playing, and I know the chances of getting that number 1 seed are really, really slim. But I don't think they're not going to roll over and leave it in the hands of, you know.
Yeah, you guys would need a Cowboys loss, an Eagles loss, and a win for you guys to get the 1. That's the scenario there?
Well, Cowboys don't matter. It's 50.
Well, the Cowboys can get the 1 seed, I think, right? Or
yes.
no? Yeah.
Yes.
No, they're in the Eagles division.
An Eagles loss and a Cowboys win. The Cowboys get the 1 seed.
Okay, that's weird.
Because the Cowboys have the numbers over Eagles.
I still don't see them rolling over, and just letting that happen. They're going to try. But, yeah, so going back to last week, there's a lot of errors on the Niners defense that are pretty obvious when you look at the tape. So I wanted to start with that, but I want to go a little bit into refereeing again. And I know that you guys are just talking about this. And I'm not saying they fuck the Niners. They fuck those teams. You're going to look at the Raiders rush and the Niners rush not getting a single sack, either one of them. What's going on here?
I mean, holding is
closely,
rampant.
They weren't making any holding calls on either team, and it was kind of ridiculous. Like, legitimately, Raiders should have got a sack on Purdy at least once that I saw. Niners should have had a lot of sacks. It was ridiculous, man.
I honestly didn't watch that game, so I couldn't give you a good explicit reason behind that. But yeah, the refs have had difficulty calling holding when they should be calling holding in a lot of spots this year. But
at least they were calling the same for both sides. But the problem is you've got like Nick Bosa trying to make DPOY, and he's got a shot at the record here, and he gets kind of shit on, It kind of pissed me off a little bit.
I mean, we've talked about officiating to death this season. It's been really bad. We've got to get these guys as full-time employees. I don't know how you do anything else but that at this point.
So my comments earlier, so when you're texting and you're in the live chat, it's a little hard to get your point across because everything's happening so fast.
Right.
But this whole thing, what I was talking about is I'm not trying to take anything away from what happened being a horrible thing that happens, but a lot of people get injured in sports, not just football. I mean, people are dying in sports, and the league, they took a stance where they were saying things like, "Hey, we're not worried about rescheduling the game right now. We're focusing on Darnell." And my argument here is that's not your fucking job. You're not the doctor. You can't do anything for him. Any decisions you make don't change anything that's happening with him. Your focus needs to be on fixing the game. And I think it's an emotional response. And I get it. Everybody has emotions. It's an emotional thing. But somebody has to be grown-ups in the room and think logic and be logical about things. And now we're in this mess with the playoffs because they're not doing their fucking job. They're not taking care of their part of the equation. And when we respond, and this is just like, you get a sneeze or you get a cough, it's a symptom of you're getting sick, right? And this is a symptom or a microcosm of our society right now, where people just respond emotionally to everything, and then they react emotionally, and then they got to deal with their emotional reaction that caused a bunch of other problems on top of the problem that already existed. I know that's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
I'm just saying there's nothing wrong with saying like, hey, I can split my attention between two things at one time and make sure that we get this side sorted out while we also feel horrible about what happened.
What would be your proposal then of what the NFL should have done? Like, are you saying they should have continued with the game?
Not at that time. I don't think so. I think they did the right thing by keeping people in the stands so the fucking ambulance and shit and everybody could get out of the stadium on time.
Yeah.
Get those emergency crews out of the area before the traffic started building up. But Yeah, at that night, no, I don't think they should have continued, but I think they could have. Once he got to the hospital and they knew, like, he may be having trouble breathing, but they knew he was in somewhat stable condition. You could have rescheduled the game. There could have been a Thursday night game this week. There could have been
a Thursday night this week, and then having them play again on Sunday.
Sunday is way too tight. You're going to cause way more injuries there.
I feel like if they were to have tried to replay that game, they should have picked it up next day.
Yeah, it had to have been on Tuesday. That's the only way I think you could have done that without putting
other
players in higher risk for injury.
I don't know. But that is my whole point. I don't get paid to make those decisions. Somebody does, and their focus wasn't on that.
Yeah, I'll play devil's advocate with it. I guess I kind of would lean towards that, thinking like, hey, maybe they should have gone ahead and tried to play this game the next day, because there was already some positive news coming out about tomorrow the next day, and that could have taken some of the emotional uplift off give the teams a little bit more of an emotional, like, feel better, you guys can get out there and play or something like that. But it is very easy to play armchair quarterback in this situation and be like, this is what you should have done. It's very tough in that situation. And then on the other hand, it is a multi-billion-dollar organization. You are getting paid billions of dollars to figure this out. This is your whole life. Your whole job is to figure out what to do. Maybe they could have done that better. It is going to be easy to play armchair quarterback and say they should have done this, should have done that. I think I probably would have liked to have seen them play this game. I would have, and doing it on like a Tuesday or something like that would have made more sense to me. But in that small span of time, it is tough to make decisions and to consider every angle on what's going on.
I do agree.
Look, at the end of the day, it's a tough situation. It's fucking tough.
I think business-wise, because that's what we're talking about, right? We're talking about the NFL is a business. Business-wise, I think this is the right decision to not play it again, because now this gives them the positive PR that they're concerned with the player. That's what their goal is. That's what their focus is. This is positive PR coming out of a really terrible situation, because that's what the NFL does. They're going to try to find any way to spin this in their favor. I'm glad that they didn't play it. I don't feel like it's necessary. Now, there are rules that are in place that probably should be followed over kind of the conglomerate of mismatched things that could fucking happen, and coin tosses and things like that. I think the plan could have been better. Do I know exactly what that is? No, but there are rules in place. Joe Mixon brought them up. That could have been the resolution, and then boom, we're done, no contest, and we move on. But the NFL not playing the game, I actually think works to their advantage, and then we're just have a couple of fan bases that are like, well, you guys kind of fucked us. But on a national level, they did what was a good business decision.
Yeah, I just don't feel like it's, I mean, I guess it is, because the majority of people are, I don't think they think logically at all. And it really bothers me that we just don't have any fucking grown-ups in leadership positions anymore, and I get it. There's emotions and people should feel sad about stuff. I'm not saying they shouldn't, but somebody has to be the leader and say, okay, there's nothing we can do about this situation.
I actually had this question brought up to me yesterday at work. What happens if this same sort of situation happens in the Super Bowl? You have a player go down in the Super Bowl. What happens?
Yeah, are they going to stop the Super Bowl? Cancel it? No, we're not.
That's an unanswerable question, I think.
it's super difficult. Like, it's you have a city. The city is like consumed by this. It's major revenue for the city and stuff like that. You have people who have paid thousands and thousands of dollars for tickets to go to this game and everything, and it's the most watched televised event of the year for
the world, basically.
Yeah,
unless the World Cup is going on, that is the most watched television program in the fucking world.
Yeah, so it's like you are in a bad situation where you now set some sort of a precedent. But at the same time, it's also like the human factor. Like, what are you supposed to do if someone goes down and potentially dies on the field? In the middle of the game, you don't just keep going on. I mean, I guess like you said, this happens in sports. Players die in sports. I mean, we've seen it with boxing where a guy will get punched and they'll die later. You racing, NASCAR, you have people die there. I don't know what they honestly do with that. Do they call the race at that point? I don't remember.
The last time anybody died in NASCAR was Dale Earnhardt, and it was on the last lap. They, I believe, raced the next week. That was a little bit different time. That was like early 2000s, but
yeah. I don't know. It's just an interesting scenario. This is something that's going to have to be discussed in owner and league meetings and stuff later on. I mean, do you add in fluff weeks or something like that in the NFL somehow, like a week in between playoff wild card and stuff like that, where everyone gets a bye or something?
So the NFL was going through those types of scenarios when we were going through COVID, about adding that extra fluff week in and potentially booking more hotels and venues and for an additional period of time, because if COVID came in and reared its ugly head, they wanted to have a backup plan. But, COVID found a magical way of not being a factor when it came to the NFL and all the playoffs.
Well, not having that plan obviously bit them in the ass. They should have had one.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's just my 2 cents on that. And I know for a lot of people that makes me sound insensitive to what happened, and that's not the case.
Well, and that's what we'll say this too, is we know you personally. We know that you're an insensitive person and you're a real piece of shit. No, we know you're a good dude and that you're trying to take a very above the situation type, let's cut emotion out of it and talk about stuff. Obviously emotion plays into things at some extent, but it's good to take objective looks at things without emotion involved in many circumstances, and you've got to look through all sorts of different scenarios, all sorts of different viewpoints in order to come to a good conclusion. It's not that you're trying to be insensitive about any of this. It's that it is healthy.
Yeah, we know this from the military.
Everything. Yes.
You guys having been in the military know this, and I'm looking at a bigger, like, I'm just using the NFL and sports as a microcosm for a bigger issue, I think, in this day and age of society. Is that somebody has to be the bad guy and make a tough decision, and can't just fucking abdicate their responsibility because they're emotionally compromised all the time. That just can't always happen. Somebody has to be a grown up and make a decision that nobody's gonna like.
Yeah, that is.
And I guess in the end, that's what they did.
Well,
what happened with the?
Go ahead, Joe.
Sorry. What happened with the betting for that game? What ends up happening?
All bets were refunded. They were called basically pushes, no bets. So.
Yeah, say what you will about the betting community and gambling sites and things like that. They've actually done a pretty good job with certain situations, like Tua going down the other week. They basically, if you had Tua-based bets, they refunded most of those because of him getting hurt early in the game or something like that. This game, they've canceled all the bets on that game because it was an unprecedented no contest type situation. So. Stuff like that.
Yeah, I bet there was a few people pissed off, though.
Oh, I'm sure. You are talking about some people's livelihoods.
How about Mike there in his fantasy?
Listen, man. Like, I wanted to win that championship. I was fighting a fucking uphill battle anyways. It's not that big of a deal. I went from 0-6 to making the fucking championship game. I'm happy with that. I'll be back next year. I'm winning this motherfucker next year because I should have had no business this year crawling back in. I found a way to do it. Next year, I'm coming fucking hot and heavy. It stinks, but honestly, that's kind of fucking irrelevant. Would I have liked to win that? Yeah, for sure. Especially because I'd have put that fucking trophy right back here.
It would look pretty good in one of our rooms.
Well, listen, Ochoa gets an asterisk.
Oh yeah, we're still going to say that he won. However, there's definitely going to be you won, but
I'm gonna also say you both get asterisk, no matter who would have won. That was bullshit.
Hey,
I lost by 7 fucking points, and then I would have won this thing.
I made it to the championship off of fucking stat correction and pissed Kara and Billy off.
Yeah, it was really weird.
Yeah.
really weird fantasy season when Stephon Diggs can't get friggin' more than 6 points in a game. But we're not going to complain about that all day. All right, man. It's good to talk to you guys. Thanks for letting me put my 2 cents in there. And thanks for keeping this thing up. I really like listening to it. Appreciate you guys.
Hey, thanks, man. We
Absolutely.
appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for calling in. Thanks for being
Lineman
a contributing member. And yeah, Lineman Lounge.
Lineman Lounge, man.
All right, bye, guys.
All right, later, buddy. All right, so back to that 49ers-Cardinals game. I'm 49ers money line. You 49ers money line on this one?
Yeah, I'm on 49ers money line as well.
All right, cool. So we will jump to our next game because we are about to hit another 3-hour show here.
Yeah, I know.
Long. All right, we have the Rams and the Seahawks being played in Seattle. The line of Seattle minus 6 points, over under 41.5, and Seattle does have a chance of still making it into the playoffs here. We're talking about a Lions loss, a Packer,
No, just
Lions
a Green Bay
win.
loss, a win. No, so they need a Lions win. They need a win, and they need a Green Bay loss, and they're in.
Yeah, and if the Lions win, and Seattle loses, Lions are in the playoffs. Yeah, so MCDC is going to be getting them playing hard, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Rams Seahawks. This one is actually a tough one for me because Seattle does have a shitload to play for, but the Rams have just been playing kind of better lately. The Baker has made them look a lot better. I'm actually going to take the Rams plus the points here, but I think Seattle wins this one.
Okay. Rams plus the points.
Yeah, just because they've been so much more efficient. They've actually been using Cam Akers well. They've been making Skoranek and Sleeve McDykel look way better out there on the Rams. So I do think the Seahawks win. I do think that they get into the playoffs. But I think the Rams will keep it a lot closer than you're expecting.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm actually going the opposite way, man. I think that Seattle has so much to play for. Geno is a really great story, and the fact that they're going to be playing this game in Seattle, the 12th man has not been great. They have not played great at home. They need a big pick-me-up, and I think they're going to get one. I would expect that this will be a pretty run-heavy game. There is a good chance that there's going to be some rain in this game, and based on what Cam Akers has done recently is great, but over the course of the season, give me Walker over Cam Akers. I'm going to take Seattle minus the 6 points here. I think they give themselves a really good chance to make the playoffs. Obviously, there's going to be some things that have to happen for them to make it, but I'm going Seahawks.
All righty. Next up, we have the Cowboys and the Commanders being played in Maryland. The line is Dallas minus 7, over under a 40. Dallas starters playing is probably going to be very heavily dependent on what happens earlier. Well, actually, it won't be earlier. It's the same time. Excuse me. Eagles and Cowboys are playing at the same time. So Cowboys have plenty to play for. They're going to be playing their starters. They're going to be trying to get that win versus a Commanders team that has a Sam Howell going out to play. We have no idea what Sam Howell is going to look like.
Not a fucking clue.
Also, the Commanders aren't in, which is why they're willing to play a Sam Howell out there instead of a Heineke to give themselves a shot. I don't think the Commanders have a shot to win this game. I do think the Cowboys end up winning. They probably end up rolling them. 7 points is right about where I would expect this one to be, so it makes it very difficult. I will go ahead and say Dallas is going to lay that 7 points. I'll take Dallas minus the 7 because I do think they have a lot to play for. Divisional game could be closer, but because the Commanders are playing some of those backups, I think the Cowboys, with what they have to play for, will win this one and will lay the points.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing, man. The Commanders have absolutely nothing to play for. I have no idea what Sam Howell is going to look like, and the Cowboys have a chance to go out there, I guess technically get the number 1 seed with some help.
Yeah.
They're going to be playing. They're going to be balling. Cowboys have been on a roll recently. Cowboys minus 7.
All right. And then our last game of the week before we jump back into our personal games is the Sunday night game. No Monday night this week. Sunday night game, Lions Packers being played in Green Bay. Green Bay is favored minus 4.5, over under a 49. This is one game that I've actually bet like in 3 of my bets this week. I've got the Lions winning this one. I've got them winning it outright. I've got them winning it plus the points in different actual money bets that I've made. I expect MCDC to get those lines rolling in there, looking really good. The Packers had, I will say it, a big win against the Vikings last week. If you look at the scoreboard, if you look at their actual offensive production, they look like a bullshit team. And that's where I'm saying I have a little bit of good feeling about how the game turned out. If you watch the game, the Vikings looked inept in many phases of the game. Big one was the fact that they went out in molded cleats instead of cleats prepared for that field. They were slipping and sliding around like they were fucking on an ice rink. You had guys who are good players making very bad plays, particularly TJ Hawkinson couldn't catch a fucking ball to save his life. There was multiple first downs and stuff that were dropped. It was rough for the Vikings in most phases of the game. But if you go back and you look at the stat lines, it's not like the Packers were really taking advantage of it. I mean, if you had to look at the score of 41-17, some of those points were scored in garbage time, you'd expect Aaron Rodgers to have had himself one hell of a day. Well, he went out and threw 15 or 24 for 159 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, defense really is what
didn't
helped
look
out.
great.
And then special teams as well, whereas
correct. The special teams having a kick return touchdown, stuff like that. It wasn't very good. It wasn't a good day at all for the Vikings. But again, they didn't have a ton to play for there. It was the difference between the 2 seed and the 3 seed. 2 seed would have been great. But they also go out there, they lose their center that was starting, Austin Schlottman. Garrett Bradbury's been out with a back injury, and then was re-aggravated through a car injury. So our starting center was out already, and then Schlottman goes down. So we have a guy going out playing center who has never played center once in a career, never played once at center. He's in Reed, who from my alma mater, he's a Mankato State Maverick as well. He's normally a guard, swing guard, backup type guard. First time ever go out and playing center, looked pretty bad. Our starting right tackle, Brian O'Neill, who has been very, very good for his career with the Vikings. He's out for the year, partially torn Achilles, and we have to play Oli Sameka Udo out there. He is a swing tackle and probably our second swing tackle. Not great. So offensive line is beat up. You're playing on ice. Defense is already kind of meh. It was a lot of shit going wrong there. If we had worn different cleats, Green Bay probably still could have won that game, but it would have looked a little bit different. Would have been a lot more competitive. I'm disappointed in how we played. We got to figure some shit out, obviously. Biggest thing for me is that it just really big knock to our health there, especially along the offensive line, which is our weakest part on the offense. Either way, I think that, big win for the Packers, but the score doesn't really tell the true story. They were not as good as what they looked like. There was a lot of opportunistic stuff that ended up happening, which made it inflate what the final score actually looked like there. On the flip side, the Lions and MCDC have this emotional powerhouse going on. They have a phenomenal offense. Their defense has gotten way better. They've already beaten the Packers once this year. I like the Lions' chance to go in there and win. I'm going to take Lions plus the 4.5 points just to kind of hedge the bet a little bit. But I think that the Lions know, hey, we go out there and win this game, we've got a decent chance at getting into the playoffs. And that is a huge uplift for that team. Whereas the Packers, yeah, they're kind of like running this whole situation. We've been here before. We know what to do. RELAX, that whole bullshit. I just obviously want to see the Packers lose.
Yeah.
Always.
I know.
It's always my thing. But I still do not think that they're a very good team.
I don't either.
They've been opportunistic, but that can only happen for so long. The shine feels like it's on the Lions to me. And I feel like the Lions will go out and get this win. I don't think that they're going to make the playoffs because I think Seattle's going to win. But I like the Lions taking their chances in their own hands here and going out. And they already know what had happened in that previous game, but I don't think it'll make a difference. Dan Campbell is going to have those guys ready to go out there and play. They're going to be wearing the right cleats to be playing on that fucking field. They've already made that apparent through this week. And so I like the Lions to win this game.
I mean, I've been really down on the Packers all year. I've been high on the Lions. I love what they're doing. But this is January football. This in Lambeau Field, and it's Aaron Rodgers. I think they're going to win. They're going to fucking find a way to crawl back in and fucking be a problem in the playoffs. The only thing that makes fucking sense. I want the Lions to win. I just don't know if they will. I believe in Dan Campbell. I believe in the direction of the team. It's just so hard to bet against Aaron Rodgers because, I mean, he's not playing great, but that team found a way to win last week when you guys should have fucking beat their ass.
I think that was the Vikings, though, taking it to themselves.
Yeah, there is a problem there, but I'm going to take the Lions plus the points. I think this is a close game because the Lions are going to be ready to play. They've played a lot of close games this year. So I'm going to take the Lions plus the points because I like the odds better than the Packers to win on the money line. I think the Packers probably win this game, but the Lions keep it close. So I'm going to go Lions plus 4.5.
All righty. Lions plus 4.5, but I would be willing to take the Lions money line personally. I don't. What are the odds for me?
So if you go Lions on the money line plus 180,
which I did make that bet. That is one of the bets I actually did make. For the show, I'm just going to take Lions plus the points, but I did actually put money on both situations and added them into parlays. So just throw that out there. All right. Well, since I did talk a little bit about the Vikings, I'll jump back and go to the Vikings-Bears game. Bears are being led by Nathan Peterman. That is the wild card for your tanking. Nathan Peterman, who has a career 3 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, famous for 5 interceptions in one half of football for the Buffalo Bills. Nathan Peterman is hot garbage. On the flip side, the Vikings have come out and said we are playing our starters. That doesn't mean that they're not going to pull them. I fully expect them to pull them if we start to get ahead. They need to figure out what's going on with that offensive line. So this is going to be another test day to go out there and see what this line can do. We are going to be getting some guys back potentially. Again, Bradbury could be coming back for the playoffs. Blake Randall, our normal swing tackle, who is decent. He can be coming back in the playoffs here and playing right tackle for us. We're not going to be seeing him this week. It's going to be Chris Reed and at center and Olisameka Udo at right tackle. We also signed Greg Manch, something like that, who's a former Bills center. He's looked good, at least in one season. I think he's got like 5 years in the NFL. Looked good one season playing center for the Bills. As a backup now, we have him in there. We need a bounce back game. We need a win. Just feel good about ourselves. But I expect the Vikings to win this one. I don't know about -6, which is where the line is right now, over under 42.5, just because we do play people close. And again, I think that we probably will look pretty good, especially from the beginning of the game through the first half. And then we might start looking at sitting some of those starters like a Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, things like that. Even though Jefferson does have the opportunity to go out there and still get that receiving record this week, I don't think it'll happen because I think by the time that he would be looking at the record, we're probably going to be sitting him, getting ready for the playoffs. Look, go back to 2012. The Giants went into the playoffs with 9-6, 9-7 record, and looked like ass, and won the whole fucking thing. I think the Vikings have the opportunity to do that. I don't fully expect it. Again, it's going to be boom or bust. Like, we are going to either go out there and lay an egg, or we're going to win everything in dramatic fashion. That's just the way that this season is going. I feel like the Vikings have pulled back the reins in the second half of the year on a lot of the sneaky, trickier type stuff that we've done that we saw early in the season, only to be able to drop it back out here in the playoffs. So I do expect a bit of an uplift here in the playoffs. Especially their defense, they are starting to figure some things out. It's still not going to be great, but they are starting to figure some things out. We got Duke Shelley at the Bears practice squad earlier in the year, and the guy has been phenomenal for us as a cornerback. They've started to switch, running a little bit more man coverage in there, which has worked out better for us. They have increased their blitzing incredibly. You know, they were like 13% blitz rate up to like a 40% blitz rate over the past several games, and it's looked a lot better. If they're able to figure out and become at least like close to an average defense, and then let the offense run like it should, we should be good for the playoffs. Either way, in this game, there's not a whole bunch to win or a whole bunch to lose, other than emotional and getting ready for those playoff games. I do expect us to win because we're going against Nathan Peterman. I do expect the Bears to lose because they want to lose for a chance at that number 1 overall pick. So I'm going to be going with Vikings money line on this one, just because 6 points, we haven't seen that but once this year, and that was versus the Packers, week 1.
Yeah, so you guys are notoriously known that like the most close games I think ever, one-score games in a season.
Yes.
And you've come out ahead on all of them, and this is not going to be a one-score game. I don't understand why Nathan Peterman is still in the league. He is so incredibly bad. This is a tank job to the max.
You leave him on your roster to tank. Their backup quarterback is Trevor Siemian, and they're not playing.
Okay.
They're playing Nathan Peterman. It's a tank job.
Yeah, they're gonna tank, and they're gonna tank fucking hard. I'm taking you guys to cover. You're a far superior team. The Bears are purposely trying to lose this game because they're playing Nathan Peterman. He is going to throw no less than 2 interceptions in this fucking game. This is ridiculous to me that it's this close even when they're starting Nathan Peterman. Vikings -6. I know you guys have played so many close games. You win them or you get your ass beat, but this is a game where you guys go in, feel good about yourself, don't play a close game, and you dominate the Bears.
That's the other thing too, is that the Minnesota sports media, which I follow pretty damn close for my team, they're extremely pessimistic bunch. I usually am part of that pessimistic bunch. They're even going on me like, I don't know if they're going to score 3 points in this game, like the Bears. This Peterman going out there like this could be a single-digit score game for the Bears, which is interesting because normally that Minnesota pessimism comes out and they're like, oh, of course they're going to keep this game close and it's going to be we're going to look shitty during it. So we'll see. I am still riding that pessimism train where I feel like they'll somehow keep it close even though they shouldn't. But that takes us into our next game and our last game of the week before we get off the air here. Browns and Steelers being played in Pittsburgh. The Steelers, who are technically not eliminated at this point and technically could not have a losing record if they win this game versus you guys. The line is Pittsburgh -2.5, over under a 40, being played in Pittsburgh. Some weather potentially a factor in this game. Looks like it's going to be a little chilly, 41, and potentially some rain or snow. According to
here
weather
right
on here. So how are you feeling about this one, Mike?
Not good. Listen, so the Browns came out and they got a big time win last week, but it's not a big time win because it didn't mean anything other than we're just trying to make ourselves feel good. Deshaun Watson is playing better. He's not playing great. He's not playing like the top 5 Deshaun Watson that everybody thought we were trading for. Nick Chubb had a good game. The defense has played really well, but there is so much turmoil going on inside this Browns organization right now.
I know Jadeveon Clowney got sent home, but is he going to play?
I don't think so. Jadeveon Clowney got sent home. He made some comments that were kind of egregious for a teammate to make about another teammate. He said that, they don't really care about winning. Winning should be the only most important thing. However, they're trying to get somebody into the Hall of Fame, taking a direct shot at Myles Garrett, saying that they are putting him up against people that are not good so he can inflate his numbers and make him look really good. Was sent home. He said that there's a 95% chance he will not be back next season. I don't think anybody wants him back next season. It's not a 95% chance. You're not going to be back next season, considering the things that were said. Now, if you were taking a shot at the coaching, the defensive coaching specifically, I understand that because Joe Woods is probably not coming back. And maybe that's where your 5% chance comes in, where you'd come back. But you start taking shots at Myles Garrett and saying some of those things, like, you're done. Myles is a franchise cornerstone. He'll be here hopefully his entire fucking career because he's fantastic. He is not going against inferior linemen to get his numbers. He lines up on the right fucking side damn near every time, and he faces the most double teams in the league. So I don't understand the comments. So we got that stuff going on. It doesn't feel like this team is meshed together at all. We're going to see probably quite a bit of turnover in the offseason based on some of the mercs that we got on 1-year deals who were trying to increase their numbers. We got some guys who are playing for their lives, though, their contract lives, who've looked kind of good. But this is Kevin Stefanski and a team that is kind of in dysfunction again versus a Mike Tomlin-led team who is going to find a way to not have a losing season and put his team in position to make the fucking playoffs. Like, you put those two things on a scale, which one is going to be heavier? Give me fucking Mike Tomlin not having a losing season and potentially making the playoffs. I want the Browns to win. I want to make sure that the Steelers don't make it and we fucking screw them up and we give Mike Tomlin his first losing season. But what the fuck would make me actually believe that's capable of happening other than Nick Chubb going out there and just going fucking off? I don't see it. The Browns defense has played better over the last, 7 weeks. They've been really good. But then we have all of this shit come out after this level of success that we've had recently, and we're getting these kind of comments in the media. That doesn't bode well for the locker room or the cohesiveness of what this team is. I'm going to take Pittsburgh, and I'm going to take them on the money line.
All right, I'll take the Browns plus the points. No real good reason why, other than I think that Chubb could have a good day running the ball. I don't trust the Steelers and Najee Harris running the ball as much. Pickett has looked a lot better. That being said, he's still putting up average quarterback numbers. He's kind of putting up game manager type numbers. Yes, I agree with you that Tomlin normally will find a way to win, and they very well could win this game still, but I think it could be a much lower scoring game, something closer to like a 17-19. So I actually kind of like the under on this one, which over under is 40. So I kind of like the under on this one, but I'm actually going to go and take the Browns plus the 2.5 points just because I don't really like the Steelers too much. I don't think that they actually have a true chance at getting in the playoffs. So much needs to go right for that to happen. And this is a year of firsts for a lot of things, so I think it could be Tomlin's first losing season.
I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be that a couple of weeks ago, and then they found a way to continue to fight and win, and now they get to go against the Browns to make sure that it doesn't happen. Like, it's just, of course, that's the way it's going to fucking work out. I'm tired of playing the Steelers the last week of the year, by the way. That's happened like 3 years in a fucking row. I'm fucking tired of it.
Alrighty.
But that should do it. I got to go upstairs, take a piss, and get changed and head out to Cleveland to get them to go help out with the men's basketball game today. Go see how those guys are doing and work some cameras for ESPN+.
Alrighty. And I got to go to the store and get some stuff to make some birria.
Ooh, birria.
And then probably take a nap.
That sounds really good. Producer Amber and I have a date tonight. We're gonna leave the fucking kids at home with Grandma. We need a little us time. It's been stressful with holidays and moving into this fucking house. So we're gonna go on a date after I get done with this game. But guys, this is the Lineman Lounge. We appreciate all the comments, the calls, the support on all the social medias. Facebook page is continuing to grow. Twitter, we're getting more and more followers every day. We get more downloads, more listens. You guys are fantastic. Thank you so much for everything you do. If you want to watch these beautiful faces, go check out the YouTube. You can also see it simulcasted on Twitter and on Facebook. If you just want to listen because you don't have enough towels to look at these faces for 2 hours, go anywhere podcasts are found. We will be there. Check us out on Instagram, TikTok, all the social medias. We have a presence. We appreciate you. We love you. We're getting the fuck out of here. See you.
Welcome to the Lineman Lounge, hosted by Mike and Evo, calling their shots and being outlandish.
Breaking news from the Lineman Lounge. My fantasy football team just took a huge fucking hit. And that also makes it even more likely that the Raiders are going to beat the Ravens on Monday night. Le'Veon Bell is about to be your starter. Latavius Murray is going to go there as well. Jesus, fuck my ass.
Get ready for the thickest podcast in the game. Coming to you from Hangar 6, where sleeves are off.